And, for some reason, it is impossible seemingly for them to admit that.
And why, hello everyone.
Hello.
I'm sure that camera transition worked fine.
Perfect.
We're
Beautiful
here,
as
yes,
always.
Absolutely. We're here. We have our IKEA gaming mugs from last week. I have
That's, yep,
some.
Swedish word.
Yeah, I have some. You'll not be able to see it at this distance. Maybe I'll throw it over here. This is some Tato cheese and onion chocolate, which is chocolate with cheese and onion flavored crisps inside. So I just wanted to torment people with that. Last time they had sold it, it was good. Now apparently it's terrible. We'll find out. And I guess we'll talk World of Warcraft.
Yeah, I'm still shocked at this. Like, I'm totally down for the whole sweet and savory thing,
Yeah.
but fucking cheese?
Yeah.
Cheese in my chocolate? What?
Yep.
Madness, I say.
Yep. And
Okay, let me get shut
yeah.
up.
No, that's not.
There we
It's
go.
not a Swedish delicacy. It's Tato. It's the most Irish crisps can possibly be.
Indeed.
They are incredible, and anyone who has other crisps are just unfortunate. But yeah,
I'm pretty sure loads of Americans get, like, proper Southern Tato, like, shipped over.
yeah, they do.
That
They
whole
do.
thing.
They do. That's up there with bananas on pizza. I have good taste, I swear. Yeah, no. Also, yeah, we will also be talking about FF14 because the
I need to move that camera.
6.1 live letter. What's happened? The table one?
Yes.
Okay.
Slightly in the...
Okay. There we go. Production happening live, folks. You love to see it. You love to see it. Imagine if we had checked that before.
There we go. I think that's better. It could be worse. but
Indeed, yep.
Who knows?
So,
Who knows? Oh, man. Right. There's plenty to talk about.
certainly is.
Raid out. Stuff's going on. Yeah, I mean, fuck, why not? Why not hop in?
Exactly.
First thing, Future of WoW, a little bit of that. Patch 9.2.5 has hit the CDN, which maybe means the PTR is going to be in a few weeks. So, yeah, I think this is what we call completely bloody expected. That said, though, now that this patch is out, next week, I don't mean that'll be it for the raid. Obviously, it won't be, but
Yeah.
narratively, in terms of big reveals, like what? There's the raid. Then I know there's a secret campaign chapter, but does that happen the week after Zoval gets killed?
No, because that's the epilogue, right?
So it happens next
that'll
week.
happen. No, it's the epilogue to the entire story. So I think that was originally framed as the end, like the final chapter in the campaign.
Yeah.
And then was shifted. So I think that might be week whatever, however many weeks it'll be until we get the end of that, which I think is week 5's when we finish and get all of the stuff, right? The legendary belt.
Maybe, yes.
And then that means that the week after that would be the epilogue. So I think we could be a couple weeks out from the finality, from the final thing we get story-wise. So yeah.
All right, well, in that case, it seems to me that, announcement season should be coming up soon. 925, that'll obviously be a part of that. And, of course, the next expansion, too, will be. I mean, we couldn't be that far away from the next expansion's reveal, right?
Yeah.
I kind of doubt it'll be a 2022 release, but I think probably soon enough we're going to find out.
Yeah, turns out we were just showing people the marketing workspace for one of the videos because the capture card died.
Oh, Pog.
Fantastic.
I love that.
Yeah, so there's a little behind the scenes for you early stream comers. Turns out we don't just do everything immediately on the fly all the time. Although
there is a stain in my shirt.
you'd be forgiven for thinking so.
That's
Hang
a
on.
particularly awkward place for there to be a stain in my shirt.
I can't believe I didn't see that.
There we go. That's kind of unfortunate. I did record an entire video wearing this shirt.
Yep,
Wow.
indeed.
It's not wet or anything. It's literally just a stain. How does that happen?
I'm not going to say why.
1 second.
Yeah.
I'm going to develop and implement a fix.
Yep. Okay. Well, caught me an awkward time, but yes. So hello. While he's, I'm not going to narrate what he's doing because I think he's putting on some clothes. But yeah, I think yes, actually yes, I thought there was something weird. I'm being told that they added, or they said that 9.2.5 is where the epilogue campaign would happen, which is, basically means we're going to get 9.2.5 a lot sooner than anyone would expect. I
Here we
would
go.
hope.
I'm back. I'm on milk.
There it is. Yeah,
It's
no,
time
it's
to go.
good. Jesus Christ! Yeah, yeah. Always good to start with a bit of humor.
That's what it is, yes. Yeah, anyway, patch 9.2.5 probably soon. Kind of, exciting just for that, okay, good. They're pushing things on. I'm happy about that. 0.25. We didn't get that with Battle for Azeroth, did we? Just N'Zoth got laser beamed, and that was that. So we might actually get some form of epilogue, some form of closure.
Yeah.
Some way where they'll make the lore make sense, so you can't just go visit your dead granny.
Yeah, that's that's the real thing I find interesting about generally speaking, Blizzard's how they've usually treated expansions is very much a GG go next experience, which is not really how you kind of want to treat a lot of things. It's just straight up, yeah, we're tired of this. Just go to the next one. We'll do the next one better, as opposed to seeing anything through to its finality fully. Kind of the thing where if 8.3 had a nice, wrapped up finale and it didn't just feel like we were in the waiting room for Shadowlands, I think people could have enjoyed it a lot more, because obviously, 8.3, by the end of it, after all the hot fixes, turned out there's her visions are pretty good. Corruptions were a complete shit show at the start, but they evolved into something that was relatively deterministic to put on your gear and have fun in Mythic Plus. And you can kind of track that if you look at the BFA Season 4 Mythic Plus runs. They were really, really high, as far as I remember.
Some of that was just people trying to get corruptions because they were really powerful. There was a bit of artificial inflation.
Of course.
But of course, it was great how the Echoes of Nyloth, the system and all that came in right when we were basically done with the patch and weren't playing anymore.
Yeah.
Oh, how silly. But, hey, Cosmic Flux. It's funny, Cosmic Flux, I think we're all getting so much of it that we almost feel surprised.
Yeah,
I have so much flux.
Yeah.
Blackcore, on our raid night, he had 9,000 Cosmic Flux.
Yeah, no, it feels like they've just kind of learned from the problems of you don't have enough resource. Well, here's too much of it now, which I think is it's annoying, because that's you don't want to just say, well, oh, you've tried the other way. Well, that's wrong too. You've sat on both sides of the binary and we've called you idiots for it. But it's it does sort of feel a bit pointless to people.
It's a bit
which
odd,
is
but
fine.
There's no pain point this time, this way, and I think that is good. And I wonder if that flux is being paced. Oh, Dakor has 25,000 Cosmic Flux now. Yeah. I wonder if they're pacing it such that a new player, like a new alt, maybe a few weeks into the creation catalyst existing, so that new alt will just be able to go bam, 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 bam. Here's my 4 set, super quick. Fairly sure they will have paced the Cosmic Flux for that.
Yeah, because if I remember correctly, the point of the catalyst is that you can just the cooldown charges of it are banked. So if you have the flux, you can just do whatever you want as soon as you hit there, which I think
I believe they're banked from the day the creation catalyst comes out, not like the day your character gets access to it. I think. Yeah. So they're basically, it's a decently elegant little system. It's nice if you're really pissed off that you can't get your 4-piece. Well, you can just target a whole bunch of chests, no matter where they come from. As long as it's Season 3, you get your tier.
I think it's interesting that Donuts is a name that occasionally has some pretty decent commentary. If they're giving us so much, why even bother having a currency? And I think that's the point where we're kind of in a middle ground where you would ideally want the currency to be okay, you go and do things and you feel like you're rewarded for it. So it's that case of they couldn't just have it use no currency, because then people would just do whatever they wanted. And that feels a bit weird as far as general World of Warcraft design. So it's sort of we kind of have to do this because it's how we always do it. As opposed to, if you had a real big rethink, maybe you'd make it completely free. But I think I guess. For the player experience, that's fine as it is, really.
Yeah, absolutely. And, it'd be nice if this 0.25 patch maybe had some rewards on some other things other than player power, because you're getting this Cosmic Flux for doing everything, right? So, what if that was to give you a little XP boost, or just any number of kind of cool end of expansion items, something like that. I mean, I know that people could say, all right, well, if you put an XP boost in, then that's just there forever. So I guess maybe you got a time limited way. Yeah. Hard to know exactly, but whatever, Cosmic Flux. I think, it's good the way that it is right now, but perhaps there's an opportunity for this 0.25 patch to do a little bit more.
Yeah.
So there you go. Right, patch.
Actually, I will say, if I'm thinking about the reason there may not be a whole pile of rewards, it might just be down to the fact that they're like, we've capped out everything we can actually use resources-wise for getting content into 9.2, but maybe there's a little bit of the cut-and-run Warlords thing going on, where they know, well, we put a whole bunch of time and a whole bunch of effort into Legion, and having content saved us, so maybe that's what they're kind of trying to do, and that's like, they're taking the loss now to get the bigger boost of content in base 10.0, because obviously base 9.0 was, relatively celebrated because of the content there, so maybe that's maybe that's what they're doing, and if that's the case, then absolutely go for it.
It'll just be interesting to see if 9.2.5 ends up having content or systems or grinds or anything that could elongate this period of the patch. Perhaps maybe to give them a little bit more time for the new expansion. Hard to say exactly, but anyway, we'll find out pretty soon.
Indeed.
To our next story then. Right, Wrath of the Lich King Classic. Fuck yes.
Yep.
Good. This is the one I absolutely am going to do. And I know I kind of said that for TBC, but TBC just happened to be an incredibly busy time for me, IRL, and Wrath, I mean, that's kind of where I really came into my own for Warcraft, so I'm going to have to. But yeah, exciting, right? So Wrath of the Lich King interface files have been found in the latest The Burning Crusade Classic patch. So you can just see here, interface Wrath, bindings, glue buttons, and character create. So there you go. Those probably wouldn't be there if, Wrath of the Lich King wasn't happening.
Yeah, I mean, that's the fun thing where it's like everyone just knows, well, we know you're going to make a Wrath of the Lich King Classic, but now this kind of, it's codified. There's a little bit of, they're actually working ahead of TBC. So once TBC is wrapped up, I suspect we'll see an announcement fairly quick. Honestly, I would expect us to see a 10.0 Wrath, 1-2 punch. I'm not sure if it's the same time, but I imagine very, very close together because they really, obviously Blizzard need big wins. And I think going, here's 10.0, it's really cool. Here's the final patch of TBC. Here's Wrath, and that all being in the consciousness, I think would work.
If I was to bet, I would say that they don't have a major Warcraft product to release Q4, or Q3. So I think
except for mobile, but yeah.
Oh shit! Okay, right. In that case, I think one quarter will probably get mobile, another quarter will get Wrath. Quarter after that, I think that's when we're going to get the new expansion. So I would almost say, maybe it could be Q3 is Wrath Classic. Actually, wait, I need to think about what the Burning Crusade Classic times are.
Yeah, because they had BT a while ago there just.
Yeah, when Sunwell could be like August, right? I suppose that's the thing.
Maybe before that, I don't know.
Yeah. Because doing Wrath so soon after Sunwell would be... it could be a bit iffy for the TBC people. But I think you can see the idea. I mean, maybe if they were to do a Q3 mobile game, Q4 Wrath Classic, and then, the start of 2023 is whenever we get a big new modern thing. Yeah. Perhaps.
Yeah, I think in terms of the announcements, I imagine they will just pepper us with these really, really hard. So I'm assuming we'll know everything we need to know. Well, let's think. In terms of what things are happening, we're at week 2 of the patch. Time really disappears. We're at week 2 of the patch. We're looking at week 5 or 6 before campaign's finished. I imagine whatever we see at the raid cinematic will be all we need to see for an expansion announcement. I can't imagine they'll wait for 9.2.5 to happen and then say expansion.
Yeah.
I imagine they'll try to get that out a little bit quicker, which means... I'm not thinking of any other games patch content games in any capacity here, but I imagine we'll get a wave of announcements in April. I can almost certainly say that. I can't. I'm literally just speculating. But I just when you feel something, you're like, yeah, that's gonna be it.
Yeah, someone's saying there Sunwell could be June. In which case late Q3 or just anytime Q4 for Classic could make sense. I'd be very down for this actually, because if I think about me in Wrath, I was originally warrior, and then I went hunter. I think it was that. That's where my hunter main had originated from. But anyway, like I'd done the tiniest bit of dabbling in Nax. I'd done, Sarth, Nixia, obviously, your man in VOA. But for me, it was like, I was warrior because I was tanking dungeons and learning how to tank for the first time, and that was a spooky experience. Then I remember swapping hunter, but by the time I swapped hunter, it's when it was Trial of the Crusader time, and I didn't do Grand Crusader or anything like that, but I was just doing Trial of the Crusader, like properly gearing a character up, watching those Creparian videos. I mean, the other ones, Tribunal X Hunter, Warcraft Hunters Union. Think about all of the places I used to frequent. But I actually missed out on Ulduar. And the thing is, so many players missed out on Ulduar because it was a really short tier.
It was a fantastic one as well.
I think it was only 5 months. Was it 6?
I couldn't tell you.
I remembered TB mentioning what the hell, this is really short, because they put Trial of the Crusader in pretty soon after, which a lot of people thought was a bit wild because Ulduar is one of the greatest raids. So I think in the same way that you missed out on Throne of the Thunder King, I missed out on Ulduar. Now I did get, I got the next 2 raids like ICC and all of that, but yeah, I'd love to get back in, and even Wintergrasp, and that's the thing that maybe could be a bit rough with this, because I feel like these days, and especially this is informed by how some of the Burning Crusade Classic has went, the faction imbalances and stuff, they all just seem to get more extreme these days.
Yeah,
and I wonder what that's going to mean for Wintergrasp, because remember the buff the enemy team would get that would just make them so strong. Obviously, numbers, you just win.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing.
So I wonder how they're going to do that.
I think if they were to delay Wrath Classic at all, that's why I think they would, because, obviously every expansion comes with some bullshit at the start, but I feel like if they just went, here's Wrath Classic, DKs are as busted as they were.
Oh boy. Please
have fun. You would just have everyone be playing DK, and, Wintergrasp basically wouldn't exist for whatever, because people metagame their server selection now. People didn't used to do that quite as heavily. It was, where are my friends playing? And that was it. But now it's where your friends playing. Your friends are likely talking to each other to figure out where to go, because, where content creators are, where streamers are, or where's the PvE server for Horde. That's the kind of stuff you run into. So that imbalance, I feel like they're definitely going to try to or solve it, at least try, based on all the changes they're making pretty rapidly, it seems, to both Season of Mastery and TBC Classic. I feel like there's definitely the institutional will to go, no, we will smooth over the problems, and that'll just take time to actually consider, especially if it is a relatively small team working on that. Wrath is an entirely different beast to approach than TBC. It's the same philosophy of changes, but the actual physical changes would just take a bunch of time. But, I mean, I think either way, I'm happy just to try to get some John Madden Feral in there. I played Boomkin and Resto, and I'm like, man, I feel like I definitely missed something by not being Feral, even though I don't even know if it was good.
Hunter with a mana bar.
Yeah.
I want to know what because I obviously played in ICC, but it's been so long I can barely remember what it felt like. Just having to go between turning on aspect of the Viper to get your mana back and all that crazy shit. Fantastic. So yeah, look, I'm in. Certainly they would earn my subscription with a Wrath Classic, and I have a feeling that well, I think you could say that Wrath Classic will appeal more to the modern crowd than Classic or TBC Classic.
Yeah,
perhaps,
I think. I think that's
could be a better substitute.
That's the one thing that I think. I think there's a lot of appetite for TBC. I think, or a lot of imagined appetite for TBC, because obviously it's when World of Warcraft found a lot more of its footing in terms of its content. There's so much content in the actual base release, but it also, I think, a lot of some of this is my perspective, so it's definitely going to be tinted, but I started playing World of Warcraft and I can never remember if it was at the very end of vanilla or at the start of TBC, but it was somewhere in around there. But I didn't get to experience TBC for months and months and months.
Yeah.
So I was, most of my World of Warcraft experience is the first 2 expansions blended together. But the first time I actually felt there's a actual expansion that mattered was Wrath. Yeah, and obviously same. Wrath, the end of Wrath going into Kata was when it hit that 11, 12 million sub count. That was like that mythical, oh my, holy shit. Hard like 12 million people playing this game at the same time. That's insane. And that was in Wrath getting excited for Kata. So if you're trying to look for biggest numbers, Wrath is the winner for sure.
Yeah.
So
I mean, how many guilds had the exact same thing that my guild had, where ICC 10 is accessible, it's super fun, then Cataclysm happens. Suddenly everything is harder and more complex and just tuned to be harder. And I think between that in Kata and through to loads of MoP, and I think actually even moving on a wee bit, the game just suffers from not having an accessible end game.
yep, for
Which is
sure.
a whole interesting topic. So there you go.
That's for sure.
Wrath Classic. It's coming.
Yep. Probably December.
Now,
Probably.
let's talk about the cinematic.
Yep. Yeah,
So,
this is good.
the cinematic then.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, our, you know many of my thoughts from the video. Yes, I'm just thinking back to our like messenger thread when this came out. You were fucking livid.
Yep. You know what my problem was? More than anything else. The execution of the cinematic wasn't really a problem. I thought that obviously Heavensward comparisons aside, which I think are a bit interesting, I think that the Anthem bit was like, okay, that's very well done. You've done the emotional hook. Gonna overlook the logic of, well, to be fair, it's my fault for being overly logical instead of just rolling with rule of cool. It's like, fine, okay, Surfang, Shadowlands, what do you mean? Even here is where you're supposed to be here because you're dead anyway.
Soul Echoes on the sword, because that's the three wielders of Charlemagne.
Yeah.
But people got really confused because it's souls.
Yeah.
But also that's kind of Blizzard's fault for making the souls confusing because it's Shadowlands, so you would have thought that was their souls, but they weren't really blue, which makes us think they're maybe not the souls. But it's all confusing.
Yeah, because they opened the can of worms that is metaphysics in a fantasy game, and they can't handle that at all, so everyone doesn't go, oh cool. I mean, I'm sure there's lots of people like, oh cool, I understand. And I do understand the point. It's just that to me, the entire cinematic, the ad a bit less so. I definitely think I was thinking, this feels so unearned. This feels out of nowhere. Especially because, narrative-wise, I have no idea why the ciphers of the first one helped us break Antwood free like it was supposed to. That's not been clear. Maybe there's something in the raid fight, but I'd seen the cinematic before the raid fight, so because that's how they've done it, because they posted it on YouTube. So that's a bit awkward for me as a player, I think.
I don't really think there's much there.
Yeah, so it's like ultimately all of that, and he just broke free because we were fighting him. That doesn't really.
Well, I think you could maybe say it's like we weakened the thing, and ultimately he is mirroring what happens with Darian at Light's Hope Chapel.
Yeah,
you can maybe say the difference with Light's Hope Chapel is that it's the holy ground, but like fundamentally, it's like Darian's father and all that shit. That is like the reason why he's able to finally break free of the Lich King.
Yeah, so that's all kind of fine. But to me, it was the specifically the Arthas bit later on where like, to me, it felt like paying lip service to Warcraft's past when it, to me, opened a whole can of worms of what could Shadowlands have been if you had spent more time being about these characters as opposed to the cinematics being about these characters and the expansion being about the jeweler. I guess that's ultimately, because I don't want to harp on with this because I could for a long time because I was genuinely angry after watching it because I was thinking what it could have been, but
your folly
yeah
was expecting a well-considered and delivered story from the current World of Warcraft development team.
That's
Matt is fucking stupid.
Yeah, that was my emotional reaction of just, what do you mean this is what you've done when you promise so much more, and I know you could probably do so much more if you had the resources. You're a multi-billion dollar company. Why is this your output? That was mostly my feeling. Obviously you go, I mean, this makes sense given everything, but
take Alpha in that other game.
Yeah.
That other game that we both play.
Yeah.
It's another MMORPG.
Yep.
Don't mention the FF14. Like Alpha gets more fucking character depth and, epilogue cutscene cinematic to explain him than Arthas does in this.
Yeah.
And it's just because, there's what they're able to do. But you can maybe say what Blizzard is interested in doing, what Blizzard is willing to actually commit spending to doing, is evidently not story. So I would say that Blizzard institutionally doesn't give a fuck about these characters or this story. And that is proven by how they chronically underinvest in these things. Now, the individual people involved in all of this do care about this story and do care about these characters, but ultimately, that doesn't mean much. What actually means something is what people get. So, this whole thing where it's like they're trying to, tell a movie story by TikToks. Okay, this is longer than a TikTok or whatever, but, 2.5 minutes. Yeah. It's like, come on, 2.5 minutes, is that all you can give this? And like, don't go and tell me that your problem is that it's expensive to do the animation. Number one, you're fucking Blizzard. Number two, okay, solve that problem. Get around that problem.
Yeah.
Really? Giving Arthas a decent send-off is not enough to make you get around that problem? Interesting.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing where, like, again, emotional reaction was you used the imagery of the Lich King and of the Helm to bring people into this expansion, and you give Sylvanas, who no one likes anymore, well, not no one, obviously, people still like her.
There's like 7 people on Twitter.
Yeah.
And, they're basically talking themselves raw to Sylvanas on the daily.
Yeah.
You're going to piss them off with that statement.
Yeah, for sure. So you give Sylvanas
all of them, they're scary.
Yeah, you give Sylvanas this little send-off bit where it's like, it's not about Arthas, it's about her and Arthas as a character in her story. And you're like, I don't care. You don't care about Arthas. You don't care about Kel'Thuzad. You don't care about Ner'zhul, as we went into in depth last week. So I don't care anymore. If you're not going to care, I'm just going to feel annoyed. And that's something I guess players have to deal with, that Blizzard don't care in the same way. So
yeah, no, ultimately the current, and I'm happy to say it, the people writing World of Warcraft right now don't give enough of a fuck about the foundations of this story. Yeah. They use it with Shadowlands. They systematically deconstructed and destroyed what people cared about from Warcraft 3. They underwrote all of their own new characters, including the likes of fucking Pelagos and all that undeserved bullshit.
Yeah,
could have been deserved, but you would have had to tell us the story properly in game. We see his arc. We barely see his arc. Maybe we're going to get World of Warcraft Pelagos, the next in their series of repair job novels.
No, they'll do. Well, they haven't done one in a while, but they'll do like the 1,000-Year War. Just it's Pelagos as the arbiter for an hour of Pelagos' voice actor in a booth talking about stuff. Because it's just, that's another thing where that just didn't. It could have made sense, but to look at the plot points and beats, story beats as delivered by World of Warcraft, the game, and Blizzard, the unit, as opposed to all the stuff we're filling in our own heads in hindsight, you're just like, yeah, there's no character development. The character development happens at the flip of a switch and doesn't match the actual ending either. So it's like Pelagos' character development from the Kyrian story doesn't line up with becoming Arbiter anyway.
Yeah, but I think Blizzard thinks they're giving us a story. Yeah. What they are giving us is a YouTube AMV of the top highlights of the story.
Oh yeah, it is
right. Like they're not actually telling us the story. They barely do that. And I think that they have this massive disconnect in their heads between what they think their story is, because they know all the character motivations, they know all the logic behind it. But I think they really struggle in getting into the mind of, the mind of the viewer, the mind of the person actually playing the game and seeing how they experience the story. Mm-hmm. The sheer, the amount of times in some of our lore videos that people just say, oh, well, that's all made up. Yeah, and I'm just like, those are all quotes from the game. Those are inside that you do know. Oh, wow, they missed everything. And it's not their fault. Yeah. It's just Blizzard being awful at telling a story. I don't understand. I don't really understand. Oh, Awesome Who says the writers take criticism as bullying. I'm only criticizing them in professional capacity. Ultimately.
Yeah, that's
if a sequel to a movie has a new writer and it's pretty badly written and their script hasn't been completely, mangled via production and editing and all of the things, because the final, rewrite of the script happens in the editing booth for the movie. Yeah. But, all those factors aside, it's like, well, look, if We can't just not talk about the writing because somebody did it, and it would be mean to point out that it's rubbish. Now, it's less... Okay, no, the writing is generally... Here's the thing, right? The writing is pretty rubbish and stilted. I'm fairly sure that a lot of the in-game dialogue is just like not written by a writer, because when you see a lot of these characters speak when Christy Golden is writing them inside the novels, like basically the voice of characters seems to change between the books and the game sometimes. Between quests and cinematics. It seems like they're quite inconsistently written. And when you see a lot of them in game, like it comes off really, really just stiff. And I kind of get confused because I know that, like, these voice actors go, you know, they go in studio, right? They have a director actually directing them, you know? And I sometimes just wonder, like, how do you get a performance like Bane's for the Shadowlands where it just means nothing?
Yeah.
It's so, you know, stilted, right? It's cobbled together. It's weird.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of this comes from... the fact that I'm fairly sure, I mean, I might be wrong on this, but I'm fairly sure I remember reading that, I know, and seeing like quest stuff, that quest designers write the quests.
What?
And the writers don't write the quests. What? I'm fairly sure that's the case.
Taking the piss, man.
I'm not taking the piss. I'm fairly sure that's the case.
That would be like me writing the dialogue.
Yeah.
That'd be like me, right? I can't write dialogue. No, it's not my job. I'm not good at it.
Yeah,
I wouldn't want that.
I may not be completely so. I mean, obviously, if anyone knows for
God.
sure, correct me. But I'm fairly sure quest designers do with the quest stuff on their own. They've like, I'm sure there's communication between, but it's not like over in FF14 where the content team write the quests.
How does FF14 have such a higher word count and like seemingly like far fewer writers?
I imagine it's because of, I mean, a good writer. And I don't mean an amazing. I mean a good writer, like an effective, experienced writer, can write a lot, like a whole ton, very fast. And I think production can bottleneck that. So I think the word count of FF14 in terms of time probably isn't really that high compared to like a novel writer or something in terms of just sitting down and going But you need the production capacity to go, well, we can completely free this writer up to just blast writing and then get that in all our content and then make sure to have time at the end to make sure everything like is congruent and works together. But there's so much of like the Zerath Mortis quests in particular. I think they're like very, because I said this last week, I think they're very well done. They're very nicely in their own little bucket. They're very well put together. And you can tell they're all working from like the same notes of what the Enlightened are and what Zerath Mortis is, and it feels like really congruent. It feels like it's a nice little world, but it doesn't feel in any way connected to any of the narrative. And then as soon as you get to any of the main campaign stuff, you're like, why is this completely different?
I guess it's less... Okay, yeah, so it's like writing, they're very mixed on. They have like a mixed record on the quality of writing and the consistency of the portrayal of characters. But then I think narrative design, and this is the bit that confuses me, because they have more narrative designers, I've been told, than ever before on that team. And I don't understand how their narrative design is so fragmented. I mean, I just have to assume that they're all kind of high in their own supply and aren't actually engaging with what the user experience is.
I am massively assuming it's too many cooks.
Or maybe it's a too many cook situation. Yeah, it's really bizarre to think about when you just consider how like other games are able to do more with less, it seems.
Yeah.
And it's like their efforts are not evenly applied. Because like we're in a situation where their A plot is so weak and so underwritten and important characters like Jaina and Sylvanas and all of that. I mean, here's a great example actually. Do you remember, I think it was at the Batman and the Superman movie, Batman versus Superman. Dawn of Justice.
I've never watched that.
There's a bit... Yeah, I watched the extended edition while building IKEA furniture, and it's one of the worst movie experiences I've ever had. The fight scene between the Batted Man and the Supered Man was pretty cool, though. But there's a bit in that people take the piss out of, where basically Bruce Wayne, it's like he just gets... You know, it's like he just gets a little USB stick or an email that just has trailers for the other Justice League characters.
Yeah.
And that appeared in my head immediately whenever I logged into the game this week. Because, number one, that cinematic with Sylvanas, when she's lying at the table going through her, her coma, her basically Mr. Robot Season 2 arc, done in like a TikTok. She's going through that. like, I kind of assumed, okay, well, I'll probably see how Sylvanas gets there, because the last time my character saw Sylvanas, you know, she was, well, just all the stuff in the last patch. And no, all that, and I'm going to say that this is just fucking lazy, and I don't care if there's a production reason behind it. It feels lazy, and that's what matters to a customer. So I logged in, and at this stage, I'm like, okay, this is the big chapter leading up to the raid. I wonder what's going to happen. I'm finally going to get to meet Sylvanas and all. And I'm just so disappointed when I walk over and I forget what this Bolvar, whatever character, it's just like, something important has happened. I need to tell you.
Uther,
and I click on it. Uther, yeah. And it just plays an MP4. And I'm just there like, what? You're telling me Sylvanas is like a pivotal character and you couldn't even be bothered to have her properly in your campaign? And so all that time where I'm going around killing random, you know, baddies in Zareth Mortis in the bit of the campaign that leads up to the raid, I'm going around there just being like, why am I fighting these random devourers
What's here?
when the bit with the characters that I'm supposed to care about, you delivered via a character just giving me a play YouTube video button?
Yeah, that's basically the funny part.
At that stage, I just almost felt offended that they were supposed to have me take their story seriously.
Yeah.
And they've done this a few times before, and I really don't like it. Well, I think what happens is they get really excited about making a cinematic for themselves, so they make a cinematic, but it's as if they don't do any narrative design to actually work out how does this fit into the viewer's experience.
Yeah, no, they've never earned a cinematic.
Yeah, exactly. So that whole Sylvanas cinematic, like, I mean, why the hell did we not get gameplay around that?
I mean, even if you want a comparison, there was, at least for like Jaina's Thros whole thing, that wasn't the most incredible gameplay, but we actually went there. We were physically there doing stuff.
Uther.
We didn't do that for Sylvanas.
Some of my favorite quests in Shadowlands are when we kind of relive Uther's past.
Yeah, why is
and
that
he sees all of his memories like blend in. So all of these scenes, like, I get it. They want to have, well, I guess good Patty and evil Patty talk to each other. Yeah. And everyone go, oh my God, chills. I am shook. Or, whatever way people tweet about cinematics these days. Yeah. God, I'm such a curmudgeon now. I've watched so much DS9, I'm just turning into Odo. Anyway. Like, why could we not, through some fucking Kyrian, timey-wimey bullshit, have some gameplay where maybe our character is there helping Sylvanas through this?
Yeah.
Or, maybe Jaina, basically, right, fuck it, it's Inception. We just have to go into her dream and help her out. Yeah. I don't know, but, like, why did they not try to, like, do some narrative design as people making a video game to make a video game narrative experience? In the same way that I think the strongest single quest in Shadowlands thus far is the one where you are just the guy in Red Ridge with a shotgun trying to defend your family and you get killed. Yeah. And it's just a really nice, simple little thing. But, like, why on earth were they not willing to do that for, like, their most important character this expansion?
I am assuming it's just they don't have the idea, or the narrative designers are so far removed from anyone that's greenlighting content in production that it's like, you maybe got the Uther thing because that was planned like 3 years ago, but all this other stuff wasn't maybe planned, and it's kind of not 3 years ago, but like 2 years ago now. Maybe it does sound like this is the way I kind of think of it. It's so illogical that it can't be a decision.
That's actually quite sensible.
It cannot be a decision they've made to do this way. It has to be the result of something else. It's kind of the way I was like saying this to you earlier, where people always think, well, that was a terrible decision. It's like, very rarely do people make really dumb decisions. People are forced into doing dumb things because of circumstances, which is to say, it's like, well, that's clearly a terrible design. You're like, it likely wasn't designed.
That's it. So actually what happens is, Steve and Co., they're actually in a small bunker in the car park. Mm-hmm. And they get to send one email a day to gameplayfirst@blizzard.com.
Yeah.
And that's it. They're just not allowed.
That's what it
seems like, if they send 2 emails to gameplayfirst@blizzard.com, like, the enforcers come in and slap them about the place. And that's why, like WoW has felt so weird and kinky these days.
I mean,
I've worked it out.
Yeah, I mean,
100%.
I mean, that's the thing where you think about how they have more narrative designers than ever, and you're like, well, why do you need a bunch of narrative designers? Why do you not just need a handful and then get them to get a load of content boys to make the content? That's the awkward thing where it's like, is there just so much production oriented incompetence that they are, they're hamstringing themselves by just, having too many conversations about the narrative instead of going, what's cool? This is cool. Hello, making stuff people. Can you make the cool sweet? Yeah,
like, could they just remember they're making a game? Like, this, see, here's the thing, because it's all built, everything's built on top of, on top of each other. And I think, look, if they're all actually just in a fucking cope corner looking at the people on Twitter who basically, just go, shook, I am crying, yes, and all these fucking people on Twitter. If like, it's as if they just completely shut down and only listen to those people. But the thing that you need to realize is that this shit's just not working with people. But like this cinematic here, people seem to be so angry about Sylvanas in this cinematic, and I'm just thinking, well, what if we had a really strong quest line with Sylvanas at the start of this Covenant chapter, instead of just killing a bunch of random mooks in Zereth Mortis in a way that has got like barely any fucking connection to the narrative. Yeah. Not, because the actual narrative, by the way, it's not the plot, it's the characters. Yeah. That's one of the secrets. It's the characters that matter and their arcs and, the core of storytelling, etc. But, if they had have done that right, then maybe this cinematic would have actually really resonated with people so much more. And they wouldn't have been angry at Sylvanas' involvement because they would have, through gameplay and interaction and participation, actually understood where Sylvanas was coming from and understood where all these characters were coming from in the way that I think people actually generally do understand Uther because they actually got it via gameplay. Yeah. Like, they could have had this work, but they didn't make a game.
Yeah.
They made little machinimas they were excited about.
While the other people went and made Zereth Mortis, and you're like, if you think about this game from a narrative first perspective of, you're trying to build a game that's around the narrative of Sylvanas, Jaina, Anduin, Uther, let's leave Bane out because they have no idea what to do with him, and how they deal with, Anduin having the, it's the echoes of Arthas in Anduin through the Jailer's domination, even though it's not about how you chose, or, the difference between Anduin and Arthas, and how you could really interestingly kind of go through that, where you could even have characters debate, where it's obvious, someone goes, he's just like Arthas, and then someone goes, what the fuck do you mean he's just like Arthas? He didn't make a decision, Arthas made the decision at Stratholme, and then you have an interesting conversation there. You explore that through some form of interesting gameplay. Obviously, that will be difficult to do. But if that's the narrative, like, first perspective, then why does Zereth Mortis even exist? And you're like, well, from that perspective, there's no reason for Zereth Mortis to exist. There's no reason for Korthia to exist because they don't do anything to further that whatsoever. They're just, we need physical representations of where the plot's going. Yeah. And that's a problem where if instead of Zereth Mortis, you had a whole campaign that was, we're going to go and we're going to go into like different memories of Stratholme, see how that went down from different perspectives, or we're going to go and go into Sylvanas' past from this new Sylvanas' perspective, and she could like have commentary and stuff like that while we're helping her deal with the manifestations of that stuff in her head, or even just entirely abstract ways, the way they do with the mirrors, the way we did with Uther's memories. If you were to design the gameplay of this expansion, of this patch, from that perspective, you wouldn't have done this Zereth Mortis shit. You'd have just went, we're going to fight the jailer in a top, we're going to teleport from Torghast over to the Sepulchre. That's going to be how we do it. And we're just going to spend all this time examining what's happening here.
So here's a little bit of, I almost think this is telling a story in a linear video game for babies, like 101. And I say this almost intending it to be slightly offensive because, frankly, it's absurd that this is not done correctly. Mm-hmm. So why is the Wrathgate something that people liked? Well, it's because you went through the zone of Dragonblight. This threat was slowly growing. Mm-hmm. You then have all the stuff going on with the Lich. You are literally questing, and for the Alliance's case, you're questing with Bolvar, and you finally get to the big moment, and the cinematic happens.
Yeah.
The cinematic is putting a massive highlight on a really cool bit of story that you have been actively participating in with one of the characters who's the main dude in the cinematic. And right after that, you're rolling into political fallout and Undercity. So the cinematic works as a part of this entire game experience. And the next time to think about this is, funny enough, Warlords of Draenor. Because people liked the level up experience of Warlords of Draenor.
It was fantastic.
Yeah, and it's like, why is that? Well, okay, let's just talk about the Alliance perspective. So I meet this character called Yrel, and sure, maybe she goes through arc like a little bit quick, but, you know, whatever. The arc is there.
They did cut the middle out of it.
You can... Okay, in the patches, Yrel falls to shit, but I mean in just the level up experience.
Yeah, fair.
You know, you're questing with Yrel, and you're questing, you meet Velen, and you go through all this stuff with all those characters. You have, you know, the few different scenarios, the few different things, and then there's the whole Darkstar cinematic.
Yeah.
You know, and you're like, oh, I've seen, because you know, you just finished fighting Ner'zhul, and then the cinematic happens, and it's like, oh shit, great. This cinematic was a massive point of punctuation, and it was showing something really cool that I earned because I just defeated, you know, that boss. It was just a part of this whole storyline that you were participating in.
Yeah.
And then time goes on, you make your way into Talador. And it's the exact same thing. You go through the story with all of these characters, and, you know, instead of just Khadgar, like, appearing with an MP4 for us to watch, you go through a fight when the cinematic plays.
Here's a YouTube link, champion.
Like, the cinematic plays, and, like, you know, your character may as well be there. And then for the Horde players as well, with, what you call him? Oh, man, Durotan's brother. You know, you see the relationship between Durotan and his brother throughout all of that. And then there's, you know, the big confrontation at the pass.
Yeah, a thing happens.
And, you know, it's all following through the gameplay. That is so different to just Uther being like, champion, put this into your computer and view it. And it just feels...
USB stick.
It just feels so bad when you just know you're clicking on this button to view a cinematic,
Yeah,
because...
and you know that because it's not represented in game.
Yeah.
It fades to black and cuts at everything, you know it.
Yeah. That was it. And I think they've really lost that, because instead, like, how many cinematics have they basically played like this for us? It's a few at this stage in Shadowlands.
Yeah.
And it just shows how completely unable to do the story in game that they've been. And it's such a shame. And I think that so many of the criticisms that people have of this story, and the lack of understanding, the lack of emotional resonance, it would mostly have been solved if they actually just told their plot.
Yeah. They just don't make the game and the story. They don't make those two at the same thing. They're not the same thing. They're putting the story and they're going, I guess, you know what it's like? It's almost like the worst case of what people think about, I mean, I know it's definitely not really true, but it's the way people think about, like, Destiny, where for so many people, the story of Destiny, especially when campaigns were pretty short-lived and raids were a bit sort of, we know why we're here, sort of, but whatever. And it's like, all of the lore's in the books, the codex, the in-game stuff, are like, well, all the lore's there, and these things are basically two separate products that sort of cross over a little bit sometimes, and that's how a lot of people experience it. And I think that's just kind of how they've ultimately ended up developing it. Whereas, like, this isn't World of Warcraft with the World of Warcraft story. This is World of Warcraft with the World of Warcraft narrative design team story that's supplanted on top of it, and sometimes they overlap. Sometimes. Maybe that's what it feels like, and I can see how that comes around with the community's kind of direction they've aimed for since Legion, with you know, gameplay and Raiders first and all that stuff.
I'm sick of excuses, like, and I get you know, I get some of the defenses people have for the various things, but it's like, cool, that makes sense, but also that's just in your head. In the same way that all that stuff, the Kal'Zad that we covered last week, had, like, that essential story point to Kal'Zad had to be told to us in an interview. Yeah,
actually, and another point that's kind of similar. You know the Devourers. Do you know why the Devourers started getting into Zenith Mortis and into the Shadowlands more?
Pray tell.
In one of the lower entries in Zenith Mortis, it's they're using Mossworn stuff, Mossworn magic and Moss Steel, I think, as a gateway in.
Yeah.
So the Devourers, the Unraveling isn't that unnecessary side effect of what Zoval's doing in Gathering Power.
Fracture in the pattern.
How many people know that? How many people care about that?
Yeah.
And they're building up the Devourers to be a thing soon.
Yeah, the Devourers are probably going to be like the next big threat.
Yeah.
And because they have done such a rubbish job of storytelling in Shadowlands, because I think the Devourer story could be pretty cool. I think the Devourers are really cool. And it makes me sad that this thing that is cool, basically nobody seems to have been able to follow it.
Yeah.
Because they're just like, ooh, boom, we've scattered our story to the wind. Good luck picking it up, dickheads.
And the one thing I'll say is that is completely fine as if you're going for environmental storytelling. If you're going for storytelling the way you did in vanilla, in the way that, From Software's Miyazaki does with all the Dark Souls stuff, because you could finish a Dark Souls game. Obviously, I'm talking this because I've been playing hours of Elden Ring. You could play hours of Elden Ring and not have a clue what's going on. You look for it, it's there. But that's not what they're trying to do with World of Warcraft. They're trying to actually tell you a story, and they're just failing by kind of trying to go for the best of both worlds at the same time. It's like, we'll have all of this little teases for the next expansion. You're like, why are you teasing an expansion and then delivering an expansion that doesn't actually do anything with any of those teases? Because it's basically what you did with Shadowlands. More or less.
Yeah, it's just really bad. And, I even just think about the point where I'd done that part of the campaign and I just got the, go kill Zoval quest. And I'm just like, wait, I haven't met Sylvanas.
Yeah.
I haven't met what are you doing? And there's just things like, characters like, say, Jaina. I would have liked to see more Jaina Arthas stuff. Now, I get Arthas was a long time ago in her past, but also Blizzard, the first bit of trauma that Jaina sees in her personal torment in Thros at the start of Battle for Azeroth is Arthas.
Yeah.
And, some more would have been nice. And I'm saying this because, Jaina got some closure at 3.3. She then got sort of re-tormented with it all in BFA. It's like, well, I'd like to know what she has to say, and I'd like to actually see it be woven into the story instead of just being a stay a while and listen, because those are kind of lazy. Those stay a while and listens often, if core information is in a stay a while and listen, what that basically means is, sorry, we couldn't actually tell you this as a part of our story, so here's a scene.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, but you're designing a game. So it's all very strange. It's all very underbaked. I think that this cinematic, actually had plenty of good ideas. Yep. Because ultimately, if I think about this thing with Arthas, that's Uther's fault. The whole way that there's no catharsis with Arthas, that's Uther's fault because he chooses vengeance over, justice.
Yeah.
That's probably the kind of the meta commentary of this whole thing. I think it makes complete sense that way.
Yeah.
A little bit underbaked in the telling. Maybe some more lines from Uther. Maybe Uther in this cinematic perhaps passing comment on how this is all ultimately his fault. And, he is the reason that Arthas could not find justice. And that as a paladin, that is what Uther should seek. And it was great seeing Uther, actually understand that through the patch 9.1 arc. I would have loved to have seen the rubber really hitting the road.
Yeah.
But it didn't happen in the cinematic.
No, because they had 32 minutes ago. Here's whatever.
Yeah, so it's look, would FF14 be able to tell its story, to tell as good a story, if they had to make their cinematics like this? The answer is no.
No, not even close.
Yeah.
It would be equally as terrible, if not worse, because they try to go for so much. And they need to deliver so much dialogue to have everything go. Someone there in chat said, Matthew Newton said, imagine if the Katana Ravel cinematic information in Shadowbringers was just stay a while and listen.
Oh.
Or even a lore book, you're like, no, well, the whole thing is this is all this. They went for this loads of stuff tied all together super, super well and with incredible emotional payoff. And if they tried to do, because Blizzard don't even have that lofty ambition, they just try to have some simple character narrative arcs, and they can't execute on it the way with their current execution plan and strategy. So F14 would be substantially worse.
Yeah.
Under the same circumstances,
So
for sure.
Instead, I'm left where all of this stuff is underwritten. There's not enough of it. I'm killing some randos in Zereth Mortis, and it feels like, as you said, the story they're trying to tell it's like there's a complete mismatch in the development team. I just don't understand it. I mean, I can understand maybe how it could happen, but it's just incredibly dysfunctional and disappointing. And ultimately, I think what has happened is they've got more narrative designers. That means more narrative is being designed.
Yeah.
That's the problem. It's so much more narrative is being designed than what they can actually execute on. So they're probably, in WoW, there's probably so much more detailed background lore, like more than there ever has been. And, it goes into Grimoire and it goes into the books, it goes into all of that. But ultimately, because it has to be spread so thin in game, it feels like there's less story. It feels like the game is smaller. So, what you probably need is less narrative design, less narrative designers, and actually design a narrative that fits what Ian and John Haidt actually let you budget into the game.
Yeah, I mean...
They don't have the budget to tell the narrative they're designing.
Yeah.
And your job as a narrative designer is to fit the design into the actual, game, right? Like, if Thomas was doing narrative design for Pale Beyond that vastly exceeded our budget for the game, and then we had to, completely gut scenes and cut things down, so we end up with just this piece of shit with loads of holes in it, it'd be a terrible game. And sure, some lore YouTuber, like I don't know, me or Tally or all the people who do the cinematic analysis videos, we could sit down and explain the story of our game to people where everything logically makes sense. But it wouldn't make experiential sense, and that's what games are. They're an experience. It's insane.
Yeah, because a lot of what ends up being the case is the canon ultimately is that the community comes to a rough consensus on all of the connected... Because you basically were playing connect the dots, but the dots are extremely far apart. And there's a couple of different paths to take, and then people in the community and content creators take generally an average. Here's roughly where we're thinking. People have different directions of connecting the dots, but roughly falls onto the same. This is what we're guessing the team want to show, and then it's like, oh well, no, it's there. It's just, but that's the thing. It's not there. If it were there, fair enough, but it's a terrible experience to have to guess what they were thinking.
Yeah,
I mean, it's different if you've got take your own perspective on what's been shown, but if it's just not there, then you can't take a different perspective. It's just you just need to tell the story. You don't buy a book to get the cliff notes.
Yeah, I think a lot of this comes down to one of the hardest things is saying no.
Yeah,
it really is. Actually, God, probably in a far more unfortunate way if you think about some of the stories that came out from Blizzard.
Yeah,
creepy man children. But one of the hardest things is saying no, because you have these incredible narrative ambitions and all these things you want to do, all the riches you want to put into the lore. But ultimately, you have to make the hard choice to kill your babies.
Yep.
There's so many aspects of the lore. Like, look, I like the Devourers. It looks like Ridley Scott fucked a Tyranid.
They shouldn't have been in Shadowlands.
But they shouldn't be there.
Yep.
There's plenty of things in the Shadowlands that maybe shouldn't have been there. Maybe those Covenant campaigns, maybe the Anima Drought lore, maybe that should have been massively condensed so that it could play along with the A-plot. And while that would mean that lots of world building and expansion of what the Warcraft mythos is, that would be sacrificed.
Yeah.
But what you earn with that sacrifice is a world where people understand Sylvanas. People understand the Jailer. They understand Bolvar. Bolvar gets something to do. Maybe Bolvar and his daughter get something to do, more than just once or twice in the expansion. Maybe Bane gets to do more than sit. And then when all these cinematics come around, people get to have a Varrock Sarfang-like experience where they actually are finding it to be deeply resonant. And sure, the Automa aren't as well fleshed out, and the Devourers are not there to set up 3 expansions in the future. But at least the story that we get is there and works.
Yep.
And it gives people an emotional anchor. And I really think the thing that has damaged WoW the most is the severing of the emotional anchor. And that's been a combination of them butchering Warcraft 3. But like if they butchered it and did something really cool with it and actually executed this story, maybe more people could have swallowed that pill. But as it stands, they butchered it and then made a terrible story.
Mm-hmm.
So everyone's lost in every capacity. And good lord, if you're a night elf, it's even worse.
Yeah, I mean, I've said this basically every week for the past couple of months. I don't know how Ned Elf and Tauren players haven't just deleted their characters and uninstalled the game. At least people who care about like the story of the character and stuff, because it's never going to be executed on. There's no feasible way they do it. They can't even deliver small class or small race quests to give you your armor. They can't do that. They've just put a pause on that project entirely without talking about it at all. We haven't had an allied race in expansions. Like, they clearly don't have the capacity to do anything.
Where's the Brawlers Guild? Where's our version of the Deaths of Chromie for this expansion?
Yeah, I guess they put a bunch of effort into making Zereth Mortis a little bit nicer than before, or nicer than Korthia was, which
maybe it's all 10-0.
Which is fair. Maybe it's all 10-0, but I am not willing to say that until I see it, because I don't know. I don't really feel it. I'll see how I feel with 9.2.5, but I feel like, because the difference with Warlords into Legion was they had, the team was big. World of Warcraft wasn't massively scuffed. It wasn't in the best of situations, but it was still, Warlords did bring, well, I suppose Shadowlands brought in a ton of money. But to be fair, I wasn't super following Blizzard at that time, so I don't know if there's staffing problems or team size issues there. But it seems
so. What basically happened is they tried to massively expand, and I've heard this from a few sources, and they did say the team expansion was. They said that publicly. The additional thing is that they kind of expanded the team too fast, and it was a challenge. Yeah. Which, in fairness to them, that is a big challenge.
Yeah,
expanding a team is very hard.
So I think maybe that's what is resulting in these problems now, but. Ultimately speaking, it feels like they had so much more time and so much more freedom to make a Legion happen, because they just cut Warlords super, super hard. Whereas if they're arguing that they didn't do that for Shadowlands, that means 10.0 must be closer, which means they don't have that there. And the same with Warlords was they cut and ran. They haven't cut and ran quite as hard with this.
Ranor is free!
Yeah, they've done the same problem, or they've, to a lesser extent, I think, but all of the things they've put in 9.2 that mirror what happened in 8.2 and 8.3, which is we've designed new systems, we've designed a whole bunch of stuff, we've put a lot of effort into this patch to they're, instead of building a new boat, they're spending, all of the people who are good at building boats are instead throwing buckets of water out of the existing boat. That's kind of the problem, because the tier sets all needed designed, and most of them have been designed fairly well. Balance issues mostly ironed out a little bit. Sorry, Aflox and Red Paladins, but generally speaking, that's where a bunch of the effort is. A bunch of the effort has gone there, and Zereth Mortis is clearly a labor of love from a lot of designers. So I don't see how they could make that and 10.0 at the same time, if you follow. Whereas with Warlords, it was just fuck it, come back when this game's good. They haven't done that.
Hard to know. I just think, if 10.0 is a more simple expansion, systems-wise, they're probably a lot more free to just make content. I just wonder... a really good example for us, before we truly got stuck into really building Pale Beyond, the version, you open up on Steam and play, we were 140,000 words we were getting here.
Yeah.
Into the game for, the A-plot. And that was, not having a lot of our events and a lot of those things that really do bulk out your word count being there. But then we obviously just knew, okay, now we need to stop this writing bit and we need to completely focus on the game, on the player experience. And we then, we go and we integrate that narrative, and, things change a lot. Things do shift and change a lot once you're kind of so much more aware of how it's going to be experienced.
Yeah, for sure.
So, getting the systems simple, if that means they can almost have a, design lock on their systems earlier on in the development of the expansion, I think that would allow a lot more content creation to just fall into place.
Hopefully.
Because ultimately, look, Legion, big fucking mess.
Yeah.
Big mess that was full of awesome fantasy and loads of content.
Yep.
Which meant that even though loads of people were utterly furious about the state of legendaries, sometimes you're cool, the one because you get your first Lego faster, you'd be cool, the one Lego I got was a utility defensive one.
Guess I'll reroll my character.
Great.
That's faster.
Yeah, and the way artifact knowledge and all those weird things at the start. But still, it was like, yeah, but this bow's really cool. Yeah, look at this story I'm playing. Fucking right. This is like what my class feels like.
Yeah.
It had the content and the fantasy. So if they can just get that systems lock a bit earlier with Tenno and not have to, because like if Covenants didn't have any of that player power attached, they would probably just been way more free to be like, oh, that's cool. What Covenant is cool. It's content. We'll go.
Yep.
Some people are saying the Noble has given up on WoW lore. Is that true?
No idea.
I
would certainly track based on
it's
the
tricky.
recently.
He's generally been more of a sort of like a historian, a chronicler of the story, a teller of the tales. Like he kind of codify the whole story of a character and present it to you. Like, cool, I want the word in Uther. Now I have it. But I feel like with the way the Blizzard have went in their story now, it's going to appeal, I think, a lot less to what Noble would enjoy, which is like that categorize, chronicle, and then tell and make somebody really experience the story of a character. Whereas I think now they have, and I dearly hope that I played no part in this. I remember getting into speculation content. I mean, there was all speculation videos, but these kind of like, I'd almost call them speculation blockbusters. Yeah. Right, where we go really hard. Like I remember one of our first ones was all the Rift of Allen and all of that stuff, where it was really starting to click at the start of Legion, and those videos started to do really well. And then all of a sudden, I just noticed, whoa, there's loads more people are getting in this. This is really cool, and that was like a different style of kind of engaging with the lore to what I think Noble had tended to do, and it feels like Blizzard has went just further away from that older style of like the full story being in the game and being super clear, and they went way more towards the let's do a few hints that me and Pyro can get 700 videos out of. It's like that's how it feels the lore has changed, and I really enjoy that, and it doesn't mean that a new patch comes out and I'm like, oh cool, we get to decode the things. I feel like Fareem sometimes. That's not for everyone. Apparently, Noble was very much not impressed with the new cutscene.
Wow.
Fair play.
I'm so surprised.
It's that thing with the new cutscene. It's what I say. I think the new cutscene, I don't know if these are what Blizzard's ideas are, but my reading the cutscene is there's actually loads of really good like character narrative and stuff. Like, the first thing Jaina does is ensure that Anduin is okay, thus showing progression in her character. But I would have liked to see them chew the fat on that a little bit more. Given that Arthas was shown in Thros. Yeah. I would, and the whole thing of Arthas has got, in a way, a bit of a shit deal because he doesn't even, get repentance. He doesn't even, we don't get to like, he gets such a bad deal, he doesn't even get to self-reflect. In a way, it's like he doesn't even get to come to terms with what he did and therefore suffer, which is like the whole thing that Zoval was trying to do. It's like, it's that level of unjust. And that's all Uther's fault. Because he was selfish. Now, that is my read when I sit down and try to mine as much out of the cinematic as I can.
Yeah.
That is not really what's in the cinematic.
No.
That's the thing.
Yeah, that's the thing where like, I mean, it's obviously the case where if you have themes there that you have, it's not even subtext, it is text, just is not very visible. It's just, if your audience don't experience it, then you've failed. I think that's the way I would put it. And I think that's effectively true of most of what they do. And that's a case of, in a world, I guess that's how execution of individual elements works. Like, if everything else lined up for this, if you're... I can't believe I'm about to use a sports analogy.
Whoa!
But if someone, if you're in football, if you're heading into the box and you have this incredible approach, perfect angle, no one's marking you, you're onside, you're in perfect position, you jump, make the perfect header, but the person who's going to pass from you from the other side of the box just fell over, then you didn't score the goal. You just headbutted the air for no reason. That's kind of what it feels like. Even in the best case, without any build up, this is entirely pointless. Because you just have people having, well, I guess my headcanon is all this stuff worked. You're like, there's a point where that's okay, and there's a point where it's not, because it's not just pure black or white here in terms of, this is great, this is bad. There's various shades of grey in the middle.
Oh, just like the burning of Teldrassil.
Exactly.
That
very
morally complex scene.
Yeah, but yeah, so it's all just, it feels so cheapened because they have to try and tell it really, really quickly, and you're like, you didn't earn any of this.
Yeah.
You didn't earn any of this. You have just shown me the final scene of a great, almost like showing someone, time for a fitting analogy, an anime analogy. It's like showing someone the fight between Goku and Frieza on Namek at the end without seeing any of the setup, without any of the reason. So you're like, well, I don't know why this guy's all that bad, and I don't know why this guy's hair turning blonde is really cool. That's I think a fairly fitting analogy of just, yeah, it represents all this stuff, but no one cares. So
yeah, it's like it represents, and I can find meaning in that.
Yeah.
But your movie, like, here's a great thing. Your movie should be good when someone watches your movie.
Yeah.
It shouldn't need a bunch of, thing explained YouTubers. That's where I go to maybe the worst of Christopher Nolan.
Yeah.
As an example. It should work on first viewing. It's great if it's better in second viewing, but it should work in first viewing. Yeah. And I think with this, it's first viewing and then sit down and have a think about what it could mean.
Which is okay if
because they didn't have enough time to do it fully.
Yeah, that's okay if you're writing a deep philosophical story or something where you want to really, really impact viewers. But if you're going for, like I said a bit earlier, if you're going for, I don't want to say cheap because that sounds unfair, but if you're going for a relatively simple character narrative arc and you don't do that right, then you failed.
Yeah. So there we go. Anduin Cinematic.
Yeah.
I think it's about as good as it could have been. And honestly, I say that because I just don't trust them to have actually done anything that involved Arthas doing anything and have it feel good.
Yeah.
I think it would have been worse.
Yeah, the reason, I think I said earlier, the reason I hate this cinematic so much isn't because of the cinematic, it's because what it represents, what it could have been. Because I see Arthas, I hear Arthas' name mentioned, I go, oh yeah, this expansion could have been so much more enjoyable to me as a player, and to, I imagine, players in the same mindset, if they'd focused on Arthas, if they'd focused on Anduin and the Arthas parallels instead of having it all written down in a notebook somewhere and never showing any of us, but only showing us every 30th line. Because I'm even imagining, even simple stuff like if Anduin on his way to attack Carestia, or, well, I mean, that wouldn't work logically, but on the way to Haven in Zereth Mortis, they really focused on this massive dead scar left behind. And then Sylvanas sees it and has an emotional reaction because it's the dead scar. It's the thing when the Sunwell was destroyed. It was this horrible, horrible event, or Sunwell was used, rather. And it's just, all that stuff was there. Could have been done, but it wasn't.
So, in case of emergency break class, I've just seen this section you guys have thrown into the doc.
I completely forget what that is now.
And
I believe it was just Reddit comments of people.
This is kind of interesting.
Having points that are really, really so possibly unfair, but also made me very angry reading them.
Well, somebody with a deleted account, interesting enough, said, I cannot fathom why anyone would make the story end with Sylvanas as a protagonist. Why would they think anyone would want a version of Sylvanas who's concerned about Anduin? Well, you see, the thing is, everyone, and you'll know this if you've looked at the alternate cover art for the Warcraft Sylvanas novel that hasn't came out yet, where Sylvanas actually sees loads, I believe it's her younger brother. She sees loads of parallels, even the whole little lion thing, with her younger brother. It was kind of like a, blonde, fair-haired, kind of like Anduin. So that's actually the thing. That's a little bit of why Anduin can piss her off so much, because Anduin kind of reminds her of what she lost, and then also of those better times, and maybe of what she could have been. And she kind of she's full of a lot of self-hatred and that resentment, it's all buried in so deep. Anyway, Alliance players want her dead, so does half the Horde, and the others just want to be edgy. So this person this is interesting. because the intention was for her to be the new Arbiter, but they did a 180 for 2 reasons. Now, that is what we call an unsubstantiated claim.
It's unsubstantiated, but they tried to substantiate a little bit.
Yeah. But I mean, it's not like, there's no citation of this within Blizzard.
Yeah.
So there's 2 reasons. I just thought it'd be interesting to sort of see what this is on about, because it seems to kind of resonate with a few people.
Mm-hmm.
They almost certainly didn't expect Shadowlands to bomb as hard as it did. There's so many plot lines and plot points that are being rushed here, and it's because Zereth Mortis was not intended to be the final raid. It was meant to be a middle patch ending with Anduin. That would be kind of interesting, and I guess when I think about it, like, the patch that had the most unique art and, like, all of that stuff, because I'm thinking about production schedule here, was the Nazjatar patch. Or, sorry. Nazjatar, as they seemingly decided.
What was it called?
Tides of
Vengeance was 0.1.
Yeah.
What was it called?
Whatever. Hubbly bubbly in the sea.
The Queen's.
But so right. I mean I could sort of believe that. I could believe that. Well, the way the raid is and how it's split is the biggest evidence. They'd been working 2 raids with 2 end encounters, as well as different bosses for these locations to wrap up plot threads. Why are there 2 end level boss fights? I don't know how much I buy that. Production-wise, that doesn't seem to make a massive amount of sense.
No,
to me.
so I think I agree with a lot of these points somewhat, not massively, somewhat. Like, if you engage in good faith, you go, yeah, fair enough. I see what you're getting at.
People don't know about Sylvanas' brother.
Yeah,
and of course, it's never told, is it?
Yeah,
it's key to our motivations in some things.
Yeah, well, how are they supposed to know?
Yeah, they didn't tell you. Buy the book.
Yeah, but
read the IGN excerpt.
Yep. Indeed.
So that's like all. So let's see that. This is why Rygalon, the Dreadlord, and Zoval all exist here, because they were pulled from 8.3 to wrap up the Mal'Ganis situation, the Zoval situation, and we had a cool idea for a Titanic Watcher to observe Azeroth's fate in the world of the living, which isn't a thing anymore, so the Watcher found a way to the Shadowlands to Zereth Mortis to be corrupted by Zoval. What? There's a Watcher? Oh yeah, Rygalon.
Yeah.
Is Rygalon a...
Titanic, Rygalon's the Consular, is he not?
Oh yeah, the Consular, yeah. I mean, interesting. I don't know about the specifics, but I do believe there was supposed to be a 9.3.
Yeah, I mean,
there was an 8.3. There was a 7.3.
Yeah, indeed.
And what's their other point? Yeah. Oh, just people can't deal with, people don't like, also, where's Nathanos? Seemed like that was maybe being teed up as a plot point.
Yeah, it was the whole point of, wasn't it Sylvanas finding out that the jailer stole him from her? Or hid him from her or something like that?
The epilogue could deal with that. Venari?
Probably. Yeah, Venari's just not anymore.
There's the rest of Venari.
Yeah.
Yeah, quite a lot of things, I suppose.
Yep.
You know what? Just saw this. I think it's adequate. But I don't think adequate's enough for something that hits Arthas. I mean, that's what I'd say to that. Anyhow, so let's talk about maybe moving on to some better things. About the raid, the new season, what's going on. So, we took a little bit of inspiration from how we tackle FF14 content. We jumped into the raid blind.
Yep.
I didn't research a single mechanic for a single boss. Neither did Matt, our raid leader.
Yep.
And I think Pop did actually know the first 6 bosses.
Yeah, Pop knew them all,
But I think that was mostly just so Pop and Tuft could actually tank.
Yeah.
Because, basically our whole guild went in completely blank. And I think we also needed, was it 2 pugs? Was it 3 pugs?
3. We had Warrior, Hunter, and the Monk.
Yeah, so thank you to them for coming, of course. Yeah, so basically we did not research any of the bosses on purpose. We went in completely blind. That was our raid experience. So, I'll say I had fun. I think the first boss is completely saved by the sound effects designers, but other than that, wasn't really that fun.
It's free loot boss.
It's a free loot boss.
It's a loot pinata, which is fine, but
I like my loot pinatas to be like Rathian. I thought Rathian was like,
but
I think it's because Rathian had like a bit of a dance to him.
Yeah.
And a kind of unique, very positional mechanic with how his flames spread. I thought that was kind of satisfying.
Yep, that was fun.
Yeah, so like first boss, a bit weak, but hey, the sound effects were cool. Second box, Skull-X. Decent, solid enough for a big worm. Yeah.
Devourer hint stuff, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so,
again, it's like, yeah.
Zymox, you know what? We didn't kill him because we honestly faffed about for like, it was a pretty short raid night.
Oh, yeah, because
pugs and everything.
Yeah, I went home late. We had, had to find pugs, and we just generally took our time. Because we're like, no. Again, this is the problem of raiding on reset day. It's like people are just sort of straggling, doing other things. I definitely had all my gear enchanted before teleporting to the raid and having to go out and get someone back in.
Very cool.
But yeah, so.
Yeah, Zymox, great.
It's very, very cool to have a fight that's, hey, here's the mechanics but we're doing them in a different way that engages the environment more and has different stuff to it. I think that was actually really cool. Really cool. I definitely haven't done my research. I may have issues with the timing of stuff in that fight that just feels generally inconsistent and unfair. But that might just be me being an idiot. And also, use the inky black potion in that fight, or turn your contrast and turn your gamma down, I think helps. Basically, you want to darken the environment so you have
Man, that was a really a discussion topic that appeared, for loads of our team.
Yeah.
Which was, and I know that it just seems a bit cheap and mean whenever we bring up FF14 all the time. I do understand that. I don't do it lightly, but so many of us have been playing FF14, and I think we're generally used to in FF14. It's like very clear where our mechanic is.
Yep.
Very clear. And the one time where there's two times it made me really quite angry. In the first boss, it's way larger than you would think. The little things that just get spread around the room that spawn under your feet. They're just larger than you'd think. So there's that. And then the next one, this is the one that, I just thought like, okay, someone needs to be taken to court for high crimes against video games. The cone.
Massive blast from the Zyakalites.
So there's the black swirly inky stuff, which by the way, like the visual effects are all awesome.
Very nice.
It all looks great. But there's a bit with at the side, the two sides, where it's like a white line, and it's a high contrast white line.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
on
okay,
an almost white ground, but yeah, sure.
Yeah, but I'm like, all right, I'm on the other side of the white line. I'm not going to get hit.
Yep.
Then I die. And I'm like, and right as I'm going, oh my fucking God, I can't believe it. Yeah. Then the next thing I hear over Discord is Matt being like, fuck, I thought I was out of it too when you got killed.
Yeah, I did the exact same thing.
And it's just one of those things where I really, really wish, Wildstar did this really good. Wildstar, woo! Wildstar did it really good. FF14 does it really good. And it just means, I was going to say, you know where you stand. I suppose that's also quite literal. And I just think that's good for the readability.
Yeah, that's the thing where ultimately FF14's is a lot of the time very much not diegetic. It's very much this is the game UI represented in 3D space because it's a big orange thing. That's game, not in world stuff. World of Warcraft has almost always taken the opposite approach of this looks like it's just happening in the world. But those are two different approaches, but FF14's is pixel perfect. World of Warcraft has never in the history of time ever been pixel perfect.
Yeah.
And that's the problem. You can do that, and all you have to do is, like, the white line was a perfect idea. It just needs to be very clear. It needs to be somewhere that you can look at your character and go, I know I'm on the side of the white line. It's the same with World of Warcraft where, your hitbox is tiny. You can pixel dodge stuff. You can't do that in WoW because you don't know where anything is. Yeah. Because even outlines they have are not pixel outlines. They are, here's a diegetic enough outline that's like this wide, but you don't know, is the line fine? Is outside the line fine? And you can always just go, yeah, don't be stupid. Just, just be in the right place. But it's like, if you want to be really hyper accurate with the positioning and it doesn't happen, then if you get hit, that's just a bad experience.
Good, people are talking about P3 orange and orange. Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, that's a problem.
P3. My P3 was like a 12 or 13 minute kill. There's so many downs in the group. But it's fine. I've been top of the
Yeah, I mean,
so
actually,
was
yeah.
happy, but,
P3 being orange on orange, that's what Zymox is. It's just, here's a slightly different color of gray on top of a gray floor. That's what it looks like. It's obviously like sand colored and stuff, but it's all just like, if, imagine every fight's P3. That's what it feels like sometimes.
Yeah, man. That said, I wonder if there's an argument to have less raid bosses in WoW tiers.
Yes.
Because I'm just thinking about how good. By the way, are we allowed to say the name of a trial yet? Or do we still say T2?
I'll just go for the number just to make sure.
Yeah, okay. So T2 Extreme
Yeah.
is the... Because I know the T1 Extreme is like the one I should have done first, but the only one I did was T2 Extreme.
Yeah, and it's incredible.
And holy fuck, that's one of the... That is some of the most like gripped and engaged I've been playing an MMO in such a long time. It's incredible. And it did just make me think, 10 bosses. Did the first one need to be there? Did Skolex really need to be there?
Lupiniata, Devourer.
Yeah, I suppose I just was like wondering, what would it be like if WoW decided to ship fewer fewer raid bosses, but redeploy those assets elsewhere to have a more balanced experience. But, you know, put that discussion to the side for now because I guess it's not really super relevant to this. So overall, like I said, my impression of the raid was like, it was fun. I jumped in, I had a raid night, it was fun. You know, I enjoyed that. First boss a bit weak, the other two I'm perfectly happy with. Playing Frostmage for the first time in the property in a raiding context. Very different to Hunter. You could say it's a bit simple and boring, but its movement, I think, is very enjoyable. And, you know, kind of doing those more squeaky shimmers, I really enjoyed. Obviously, being able to shimmer through the thing in Zymox, it feels really powerful. But that's fun. It felt like a little bit of class flavor. You know, all you suckers haven't used the teleporter and us mages just zooping about. I thought that was cool.
I mean, I had the same experience with Soulship because I'm playing Nightfave for the first time. Like, oh, sweet, nice.
So people are saying Halandrius is really cool.
I can't wait to get there.
Yeah, that's after Zymox.
Yep, believe so.
Oh, great. All right, sweet. We're nearly there. So look, I enjoyed it because just another slice of WoW rating. I'll certainly say, like, if I was this week doing 9 or 8 or however many Mythic Pluses it is to get the 3 things and, you know, doing it all like that, then I probably would enjoy it less. But as it stands, I just, you know, just chill, do what I want. I don't think about the reward systems anymore.
Yeah, that's the same thing I've been doing. I've been just like, I don't care about the rewards. I will go do Mist Time Walking, even though I know that's a chore, because 252 gear is just going to be probably worth it. Yeah. I will do that reluctantly because Mist Time Walking's fine, but I don't want to be coerced into doing anything by a reward system. I want to do something because it's fun and then get a reward because it's there as well. But
it would be cooler if we lived in a world where, you know, the Valor cap was maybe a bit different and Valor was a way more useful currency to a raider, so that if you were doing your raiding, you know, and you did lots of raiding, you'd get all your Valor, but maybe, you know, doing the time walking thing would get you some Valor as well, enough to make it worth your while. And that way it would be more optional. And that's just me thinking about how FF14 does its dusting of your astrology and aphorism tombstones in the more side content, such that, you know, you can do some treasure hunts, you can do some hunt trains, and not feel like you're being stupid because you're not doing the expert roulette. So that's maybe food for thought. Now, what is interesting too is difficulty.
That's been fun.
It seems this has been ratcheted up a bit.
Yeah, maybe. I mean,
I've not been paying much attention. I've almost made a point of not paying attention in the sort of big, you know, zoomy zoom competitive land. But only 3 guilds in the world have killed Heroic Anduin.
Yep.
And it's a very tight fight.
Which I think is interesting, for sure. Because there's so much expectation for people to nuke normal and then nuke Heroic and then be done because of how loot kind of comes out. You're like, well, if you don't kill this boss, you don't get your loot. Or, like, that's another argument against the Great Vault. It's like week 1, you want to not get scuffed in your first Great Vault, go kill all 8 bosses. You're like, well, I can't do that because I've got, you know, 2 raid nights and we're not that good. All right, sweet. But that's kind of an aside. But I do think it's interesting that is tuned so... it's awkward. Because all of the nerfs make me think that maybe they overtuned by accident. Because they're thinking about double legendaries and tier sets. And maybe they haven't tuned down to account for without them. But if it's intended, then I think it's a really interesting design change. And I think I like it. I like the direction of it anyway.
Interesting. I mean, like Skolex there, or sorry, Zymox, it's 15% HP nerf for the Acolytes.
Yeah.
Just, bam, there we go.
That's
Reduce the pacing of the encounter by 15% normal and heroic. Like, quite a lot of changes, Anduin having more nerfs as well. So that's the March the 3rd ones. March the 2nd, Anduin nerfs. Just interesting. Are we going to do the discussion of complexity now or later? Now that's something Asmongold's been talking about a lot, and
complexity on.
You know what? It's something I remember me and Asmongold talking about when we did a live stream with heel versus babyface in fucking Warlords of Draenor.
We can talk about complexity at a different stage because it's a bigger conversation there.
Next thing, M+ encrypted affix. I haven't tried it. You haven't tried it.
Yeah, no, I haven't.
Dakor probably has. In fact, this document means he has.
Yeah.
Oh,
I've watched him and been at. He's been in M+ all day.
Dakor's a cutting-edge mythic raider, so he was in chat earlier. He has 25,000 Cosmic Flux. Yeah. He will, of course, be maxing out every reward track that he can this week in order to really hit the mythic progression of his guild hard.
Yeah, he's taking a couple days off next week to do exactly that.
Indeed. So for his initial thoughts then, he says, it's yet another affix that gives you a nice positive buff after successfully dealing with it, like Tormented and Prideful from 1 and 2. Seems to be scaled better than Prideful, insofar as not being completely unmanageable in higher keys, though, yes, he'll have to see in 25 and 30 keys. You know what? For mere mortals like me, don't think I'll ever see that.
No.
Some of the dungeon bosses at the higher keystone levels feel a bit tougher, and that's because of not having the defensive anima powers available from last season. Yeah. And once everyone's got their double Legos at 291, plus the set bonuses, the dungeons will certainly feel a lot easier. Lesser mechanics won't outright one-shot you like they do now. Yep. There you go. Now there's also apparently a few bugs. He also has a helpful tip. A tip for all the Mythic Plussers. You can change the name that appears on mob templates using an add-on like Plater. So if you're having a hard time remembering what mob gives you what buff, you could make it so their nameplates, well, say what buff they give.
Yeah.
It's a nice tip.
It's a nice tip. Also, wild.
There you go.
Wild. To me, it's like wild. You're just going to, who cares about the name of the mob? It's just reduced to a UI element or what it does. That's maybe a different kind of complaint.
Well, it's, these are played like a competitive game with tools.
Yeah.
So Nawa from Echo has got some great profiles for Plater, LVUI, and Weakors.
Yep, they are fantastic.
All right, I might have to check that out. I really went in there, so it'll be cool to see. So for our stuff to do this week then, right, here's your dailies and your weeklies for raiding as much as you possibly can because, of course, and especially the tier bosses, because killing a tier boss will increase your chance of getting that boss's slot from the Great Vault.
Oh yes, it increases it, doesn't enable it.
Yes. What bosses are tier? We certainly haven't covered any of them.
I can't even remember. I remember looking and going, shit.
Yeah, so there's that then. Of course, try to do at least one Mythic Plus key, highest you can handle, and then getting 3 more keys would be worth it for the additional chances of tier gear, and don't worry about the timings. PvP then, well, hop in there. I think I want to hop in and have some fun, actually. I want to see what it's like in Frostmage.
Try solo shuffle, try not to get your character bugged out.
And apparently also it's easier to push at the start of the season too, but beware of 1800 plus because boosting. Zareth Mortis then, do chapter 4 of the campaign this week. You get so much renown, by the way, just torrents of renown, so that's definitely good. But that also does mean it would be worth swapping Covenant to get all the super quick renown with whatever another Covenant you could possibly be using is.
Oh, why is this game like this?
Yeah, I know.
Jumping through hoops is so
renown
awkward.
should, honestly, from my opinion, it should just be account-wide. Because right now, hello, Blizzard, time for design feedback. I like Carrion. And Radiant Spark is shit.
Yep.
Radiant Spark is shit. It's one of the least interesting. It's just shit. Now, I like being a Carrion. I like having a Carrion transmog and all that stuff. But, certainly a barrier to me feeling optimal is access to other Covenant abilities. I know that there's a use case for Necrolords in AoE, and of course Venthyr more for raiding.
Yep, get your snares on the go.
But the thing is, in order to do that in my character, I would have to get my mage up to a high level of renown with both of those. And once all of the fast catch-up is done for my current Carrion Covenant, It's just running Torghast 9s again? No, I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
So because of that, I feel like I can't do as much with my character. So there's some design feedback.
Indeed.
Yeah, the Covenant system was fucking stupid, and you really shouldn't have just rammed it down the throats of your staff when you thought it up. Smile. It didn't have a long feedback session when it was initially.
Really?
Really?
Because I remember it having a very, very long feedback session with the public.
Oh no! Funny enough,
lots of that. I remember a couple of content creators suggesting maybe all of the problems that Covenant the system were going to have ultimately did actually happen.
Well, funny enough, I'm fairly sure that they, just like how they disregarded what all of the players said, I think they disregarded what other teams said. And it's funny that even now that they've opened the Covenant system up, we are still paying the price for their design ineptitude and their basically lack of understanding of how their game is actually played. Haha.
Really?
Very cool.
Really?
Which, I'm fine. I'm having fun. And I know that I could go and I could do a Mythic Plus with all you guys. But it still feels a bit not cool that I'm not really being the best team player because I've not went and done 500,000 Torghast 9s in order to, go for the other build. It's just so silly. This borrowed power is so silly. I cannot wait until the next expansion does away with it.
Yeah.
And it better do away with it.
I mean, here's even the awkward enough thing. I feel really quite scuffed at the moment playing Master Shaman.
Really?
And I'm Night Fae. And I'm like, well, okay. This pulls ahead in terms of general efficiency once I get, or my ultimate goal actually rather is I'm there because I want the double legendary, because I want the cooldown reduction Healing Tide. But at the minute I'm just kind of left being Night Fae with it not really feeling that great.
So you don't really have the main benefit of
so it's like we would be substantially better if I swap Kyrian and Vesper Totem. Then once I had double legendary, swapping back for Night Fae for Healing Tide. I'm not fucking doing that.
Feels good, man.
Yeah, fuck off. You think I'm doing that?
Yeah.
But that's the way the game's designed. It's designed for, we'll get into this a little bit later, but it's just designed for optimized performance in really awkward ways.
Yeah. To continue with the things to do then, of course you want to kill Antros, the new world boss, for a chance of some eye level 259 gear. So that is normal mode, but last 3 bosses, item levels.
Nice. Can't wait for that to not drop for me ever like 9.1's fucking world boss.
Yep. Don't worry, I got nothing this week. Weekly event then. Of course, if you complete the Time Walking Dungeon quest, you'll get a bit of eye level 252 normal raid gear. Will not give you tier.
I'm very surprised they had the foresight to do that.
And Dicor says it's good to try to get this done before you go into normal mode, because then you could trade a duplicate to someone else if the if the same item drops, because Master Looter's not in the game, which means that playing with a guild of people that you are friends with and trust is a worse experience, because they design by dictate.
Yeah, I don't know about the Tate, but definitely fucking some dicks design this game.
Yeah, I know. Look, we're not asking for people to be ninja looted in pugs. I just want to trade my friends the thing I don't need because I want to play as a part of a team, because I am not a number go up player. This is a cool experience to play the game with my friends and progress through the raid with my friends, and if I can trade some loot to somebody and they can get that loot and we can all do better, then that feels like I'm there playing with the team. Cooperative experience, cooperative playing with other people. That's sticky. That means you play the game more, but no, personal loot.
Yeah.
Personal, it's mine. It's mine. This loot is mine. My loot. No, you loot. Bye. This is a single player game with helpers.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's like, where's the fucking social skills of the people who did this whole Master Looter thing? I don't know. It's fucking weird. Anyway, that's been talked to death.
It won't have been talked to death until they go for it, because, like I've said before, they've established precedent with cross-faction. The same argument you make for Master Looter, you dismantled with cross-faction, so you have no reason not to do it except stubbornness, pride, and not wanting to give players a good experience. Thank you.
Good. Yes, it wouldn't be as true if I didn't really lose my marbles and, gibber my jabbles all over the place. Yep. So, we have a solution to trash. Put it in the bin.
Yep. Where it fucking belongs.
This has just been really funny because I've seen so many of the, zoomy fast players just skipping all the trash.
And rightfully so, because it serves no purpose.
Yeah.
Well, okay.
I don't know, you're 150 Cosmic Flux there. Big man. You wouldn't want to forget that.
Yeah, same with the Echoes and Nyalotha from before. Wow, great, fantastic.
So, a bit of talk about raid trash. I mean, look, whenever I played Trial of the Crusader, the bit that I hated about it was there was no trash for me to kill. 100%. 100%. But basically, right? Well, okay, let's go through. Let's go through the headings in this beautifully prepared discussion point that you've crafted for us.
Indeed, yes. So, to begin with, FF14 actually kind of gets us wrong quite often. It gets it right sometimes in Alliance raids, and it's why I think there's times doing Crystal Tower, there's times doing Tower Paradigm's Breach, there's times a little bit in Red Run Lighthouse and stuff. Trash does make a place feel alive and feel dangerous.
Crystal Tower feels big, yeah.
Yeah, Crystal Tower's big. Sure, all that trash is garbage, but you do it and you're like, oh, this is a lot of stuff. There's even room for fun little like lore things in there because there's a bunch of elegant experiments, stuff like that. And then you go to like Pandemonium as an example for the recent one. This place that feels so big and important, having nothing in it effectively feels kind of weird. That's for sure. They work around it sometimes. Like, I mean, there was kind of trashy stuff in Coils early on. They decided against that, but then, like Eden makes sense out of it. But anyway, to get to my actual point, there's just something there that's kind of missing occasionally. And World of Warcraft has always done that really, really well because every raid environment, or the majority of raid environments, have felt dangerous. They felt like you're invading enemy territories.
Yep.
Imagine going.
The scale is so cool.
Yeah, imagine going through Castle Nathria with no trash. It would be empty. You would just end up teleporting between rooms, and it would feel really unnatural and wrong, as opposed to we're attacking this castle.
It's like a massive castle with 6 people in it.
Yeah. So like obviously that's one thing that is generally a WoW player will feel that's missing in FS rating. They design around it, so it's fine. But World of Warcraft's gotten that feel down really, really well. Has ever since the first day of you go through Molten Core and it's just a whole bunch of trash. You're like, well, it's kind of boring, but also you're invading Bracken Rose's domain. Makes sense.
Yeah.
But raids take way too fucking long. They just take way too long. They are obscenely big for people taking reasonable progress. It takes hours and hours and hours a week to get through it, which obviously, if this was all content, that's fine. But the problem is, trash just feels like unnecessary padding. Nothing else.
Ever since Korkron Dark Shamans, I've had he's been awakened in me.
Yeah. See, that's the thing. Like, that's been fine. The Korkron Dark Shamans is relatively okay because you're an org. Obviously, it's going to be dudes in org. We'll be fighting an army. But why did you have to individually take out all of them? Why was there nothing? Was there nothing that could have helped?
I guess I think about, Ice Crown Citadel. I liked how, it had the little mini bosses that would drop the bag of loot. That would have some useful resources like some badges and, sometimes even something a wee bit better.
Yeah.
That felt, and I do like how they've tried to put in, those like little mini bosses that'll give you something in the trash. But trash is trash. It sometimes it's just the between trash and all the other things. It takes up quite a proportion of your raid night. Which when you have a 10 boss raid, and especially when you're thinking about the Great Vault, because that's what their reward designers decided to do, then all the time you're there like, oh my god, we only have 5 hours of raiding a week, and we have to spend an hour of it doing trash or whatever, and that kind of feels bad because the Great Vault, we're so incentivized to get more Great Vault options because gear, and it feels bad.
Everything is incentivizing you to do this quickly. And this isn't just like, reward incentivization, stuff like that. It's literally time constraints. This isn't MC. This isn't, back in the day when people would play World of Warcraft for 7-8 hours. Gaming habits have changed. There's more time competition. That's a global thing. Everyone in the world now has less time because there's substantially more, you could cynically go, more media to consume. Haha, nice, meaningful life. But even in terms of the world is bigger, people have more connections via the internet, there's more stuff to do. So people have less time. And they need to work around that instead of going, here's a load of just shit for you to actually do. I mean, the half here is, our first raid night was about 3 hours long, but 2.5 really. We got to fight 3 bosses, killed 2 of them, fought 1, couple pulls. Wasn't that many pulls. We had to run back a lot of the time. We had to fight a lot of trash. And there was even a pretty awkward time on trash where we went right into Skull X, and then we came back out and thought, well, we're gonna go, kill Zymox and get Hollandus. The efficient thing to do was to kill the trash leading to Hollandus because it would let us in the room. But there's a wall there for no reason, so we had to go and kill extra trash.
Yeah.
And the trash had some mechanics, which is sort of okay, but I mean, I think everyone was just zoned out, just waiting for the boss, more or less. And that scuffed us in terms of our time. We had a worse experience because we didn't get to fight all the bosses because we didn't sit down for 4, 5, 6 hours.
For the best of both worlds, like, how would
Yeah.
you say the Siege solved this problem? Because I remember actively raiding Siege of Orgrimmar, and I've definitely got to say, like, people were still frustrated at trash back then.
There was one specific element Siege did.
Okay.
Remember when you... let me get the order of Siege right. Was it Malkorok the big guy?
Malkorok he had the miasma mechanic. He was in the circle.
Yeah, and then you go down to him, and then it opens up into the...
Yep, the Treasure Vault one.
Yeah, Treasure Vault, which led to Paragons, and then there was the...
Treasure Vault, Paragons, and then your...
No,
it wasn't Paragons.
There was,
it was Treasure, and then it was the one with the big dinosaur. And
Oh,
then
yeah,
over
yeah,
there
yeah.
was Siegecrafter Blackfuse.
Yeah, so
and
that-
then
yeah.
it was Paragons.
Yeah.
Then it was Gary?
Yeah,
maybe?
that
I
was
forget.
it. That was it. But that was the room, right? Where you went in and you split off into 3 different ways. There was a lot of trash in that room. You didn't have to kill any of it because you kicked the door open, your allies came in, blew them all up, froze them all.
Oh, yeah.
So you felt like you were kicking Garrosh's doors in, but you didn't have to fight a little trash.
Oh, shit! Do you mean Mr. Crispy could have something to do, and we could like Mr. Crispy because he'd come in and take the trash away?
Yes. That's literally what I mean. So, before you take the teleporter in Sepulchre, before you take the teleporter over to the...
Almost fell off my chair. I didn't actually... Whoa! Didn't expect that.
Yeah, so before you take the teleporter over to the, after the first boss, over to the next area, Thrall and Bolvar are standing there. Bolvar swings his hammer, and Thrall throws what looks like a lava burst at the same bat that fly, or whatever it is, it's the same bat-like enemy that flies in and comes back. It's not an enemy. It's just a thing. You never consider it an enemy. It doesn't exist. It's just there, and they just do this on loop while you're watching.
Yeah.
So I was thinking of that, and I was like, well, that just solves all the problems. Why didn't we take the teleporter? We land and go, here's a load of trash, and Bolvar goes, all right, boys, I've got this one. And just starts, not necessarily to immediately kill them and make it feel easy, but just fight them off, fend them off, pull them over into somewhere else, or, even just, put a wall up around himself and them and let us go past, stop them aggroing us. Why isn't Jaina just showing up and like, oh, are all of these things in your way? Well, we'll freeze them all. Job's done. And then you have 2 things. You've got characters actually fucking doing something, which they're technically already doing, but this way you have them doing something that actually matters. You've got to do something that matters to you as a player. So you're actually saying, oh, well, here's a bunch of trash. Fuck that. I don't want to do this. Oh, shit, this character came and helped. Thank you, Tyrande, for shooting all these people with arrows. Thank you, Bolvar, for doing something. Thank you, Bane, for actually fighting something. Something that looks cool. It's effectively a little set piece.
Oh, man, what's the final dungeon of Stormblood called again?
Oh, my God.
So it's basically World War One.
Yeah. Oh, what's that called? Oh, my... Oh...
So, but it's a really cool dungeon because as you're going through it, like obviously there's trash because it's a dungeon, but it's nice how some of the Gimlet Dark.
Yeah, exactly.
Some of the characters are coming in, and you'll run through and you'll do something. Those characters will be like, I'll hold them off here. You go on ahead, and it actually feels like you and those characters are really progressing through that together. Yeah. Whereas in this, it's like I've triggered Mr. Crispy to spawn there.
Yeah.
Because technically Mr. Crispy and the Knights of the Ebon Blade have been charging into the breach with us for 2 raids in a row.
Yeah.
And it doesn't at all feel like
we haven't felt that in the slightest.
Because he just stands there just going.
Yeah.
And that's all bull.
Yeah.
This is all like I guess Magni
he swings it now. It's great.
It's like that's it, man.
Yeah.
Where's our, where is he? What's he doing?
Yeah, like
yeah.
I mean, I guess there's another example. Like why? There's an LB3 pop for the bosses. Why isn't it when someone else there says you also fight with them a little bit? Yeah. Why is this not a case of trash being solved by these allies? And then even, you walk into a boss room, right? The boss room is full of a boss and all his allies. And then the boss goes, ha. Especially Zymox, because Zymox is a crafty kind of person.
Yeah.
Zymox is, the cartel. They're smart. They have a load of stuff. Why is it not the case where we step into a trap? Because why does Zymox wait until we're fighting to throw traps down? Why does Zymox not put traps at the fucking door? Then we'd just never get in. Job done. So why not have that happen?
The ludonarrative dissonance.
Yeah, basically, exactly. I think obviously complaining about ludonarrative dissonance a lot is really kind of, it's missing the point a lot of the time. But yeah, but the point is, it is a massive opportunity for Blizzard to add so much to characters, add so much to the actual richness of playing this game, and also remove a problem that's really annoying people in a way that they won't complain about. You put trash in, and then you have another character put it in the bin instead of us having to do it. It's the start of fucking. Oh my god, I can't believe I'm about to say this. It's the start of Half-Life 2.
Whoa.
Blizzard are the compound guard who knocks the can out and goes, pick that up. Whereas in an ideal world, the compound goes, there's a trash can, there's a can, I've put it in the trash for you. On you go, because the combine is our ally in this situation.
Of course. Yes.
Fucking
collaborator.
I've lost my marbles. But yeah, that's the thing where they could do something, get rid of the trash. The trash would be there. The raid would feel alive. Everything would be okay. They would still feel like we're invading, but it would feel like we're invading. Make them set pieces. Because I think that's how Jared described them whenever I brought this idea up. He's like, so trash would mostly be set pieces?
Oh.
Yeah. So, and I don't mean get rid of all trash. I mean, let us fight a couple dudes at the door, right? No problem. But why is there the massive wave of things and all our allies fighting a load of scripted NPCs that we don't care about or see or block our path? They need to just go, okay, boom. The Bolvar's like, right, I've just done whatever I've done. I've done the cool thing from the cinematic where I've changed the color of my hammer and I've just wrecked this whole thing. Obviously, he may not because the helm's broke, whatever. But, do that. And we're like, yo, sick Bolvar. Thank you very much. Now we'll go fight the boss and have fun. That's my solution to trash.
Well, good news, Matt, because guilds have fixed the problem and now Blizzard have fixed the guilds. So,
fix like you fix a fucking dog or a cat, yeah?
Yeah, so the likes of Limit and Echo have just been skipping trash.
Yeah.
So either what you do is you have the whole raid group, or just a warlock and some healers use Invis and Shroud, or just gun Jews to fucking blast their way through all of the trash, and then summon the rest of the raid up to past the trash.
Yeah.
Dakor's guild have been doing this during their main runs, and it saves like 30 minutes over the course of the evening. That's a few more pulls of the actual fun gameplay experience we all want. But the good news is Blizzard have fixed this problem by having several enemies now detect stealth and invisibility, which of course just means you can probably just fucking gun shoot someone through there and sure they die. So people are, here's the thing, people are getting around this anyway.
Yeah, this doesn't fix a death skip.
Yeah, it doesn't fix a death skip.
They fixed the death skip by putting the wall up in the first place. It means you have to kill them in that specific bit at the start anyway.
Yeah. So, I just think with how things are going these days, I vastly prefer what you said.
Yeah, I think that's the thing where, the only, well, this is, you could say this of quite a lot of things we propose, or the community in general proposes. The only cost here is Blizzard have to do more work. And I'm not going to begrudge, or, I'm not going to say, oh, poor Blizzard, you have to do so much work whenever I'm paying you $10 a month. Well, no, $15 a month, or $10 a month for a game that's getting an update every 6 months. That's, you do some work. Yeah. I'm paying you to do some fucking work.
Now then.
Yep.
Have they forgotten Lore Master? I didn't know about this at all, but I've just seen this in our show notes. What's going on? Blizzard's massive missed opportunity, Lore Master. What's the crack here, Matt?
Yeah, so this was me, as I do, browsing some Warcraft lore subreddit because I can't escape. But this person had this post: is the in-game story better told elsewhere? Is it better told at the time? Is it better told elsewhere? What am I missing? Because they go through and they're all like, I was playing through Miss Madara first time. I was surprised to see Garrosh turned out to be the final boss of the expansion. we could be surprised the Jailers final boss. Maybe we could surprised.
His involvement,
Yeah,
fair
the start of what do you call it? The start of BFA. We're surprised it's off the final boss. So maybe the in-game story is not told better. But this particularly struck me because they're talking about all the stuff I'm doing, but I feel like I'm missing a large chunk of story somewhere. Is it all told via tie-ins like novels, etc.? A little tiny bit. Yeah, but a lot of that in Mist's era was kind of the after stuff of war crimes and character stories that weren't super important, I think, around that time. Like, I think Wolfheart was around that time as well, maybe Kata. Thrall's book was Kata and stuff. But the answer wasn't, oh yeah, it's all told in via novels. The answer is, story's gone.
Missing?
Sorry, bro, story's gone. We forgot to put that in Warlords of Draenor. We removed it. You can't have it anymore. Because I looked at the replies and they said, yeah, you're missing the pre-patch event, the bombing of Theramore. You have to read about that in Wikipedia. There you go. The legendary quest line with Wrathion to, do the whole cool thing with the Celestials that really sold you on the monk fantasy and the world of Pandaria. Gone. The battle in the Barrens, also gone. That stuff's not in game anymore.
Whoa.
Which is a massive problem in and of itself. For sure. Because, there's people saying, well, I guess this is another point, but people say, I have Lore Master up to BFA. Never knew this happened until now. And that's because this is where the missed opportunity part comes in. Mm-hmm. Lore Master covers zone quests. It doesn't cover follow-up quests. Yes. For any FF players, imagine playing FF and you go from point 0 to point 0. Nothing would make sense.
Insane.
Yeah, nothing would make any sense whatsoever.
Yeah.
It would just be straight up, oh shit.
Battle for Undercity, Grand Nagus is great. We have a Ferengi. So Battle for Undercity, that's one of the greatest narrative moments in WoW.
Yeah, it's gone.
After another one of the greatest narrative moments in WoW is gone, deleted from game. Bye bye.
Yeah,
it's wild.
Yeah, so this is what the missed opportunity is. Lore Master only covers point zeros. You cannot do Lore Master and be a Lore Master. That's not how it works. Also, you can just not read the quests, but let's not talk about that. But the point is that this is a massive opportunity for them to go, Lore Master is content. Because Lore Master is content, right? It's an achievement in the game, so they want you to go do it. They want you to go do all the quests in the game effectively. But, as Night Stalker says, they have the Caverns of Time. Why is this shit not available?
You could do basically... okay, right. I know Minstrel's Tale is different because that's the narrative framing for the extreme trials. But you could do something along those lines to retell these stories via really kick-ass content. And to be honest with you, right? You see, if an expansion was just, we're going back to Azeroth and oh boy howdy, those infinite dragons polluting the timeline. Yeah. Here's the thing. I just did Omega, and I really enjoyed Omega. And, the first wing of Omega is FF5. The second wing of Omega is FF6. Yep. It's, all just, homage to past FF games. Mm-hmm. In WoW, they could totally just do, Icecrown Citadel, the Infinites are trying to fiddle around with it.
Yeah.
Or, here's a crazy situation with Brock, Cigar, and Sargeras. Want to go back to that scene? They have so many moments from the novels through all of that could just allow them to tell so many of the stories. Mm-hmm. Just so many of the Warcraft universe stories, in-game, through great content. To the point where, if it was just the Infinite Dragon expansion as a way of doing that, and they, maybe bring some other zones up to date, stuff like that, I think it'd be great.
Well, here's the problem, and here's where my solution comes in, right? So, the problem you've just said is that's a lot of work. That's a lot of content they have to make. And they've got the narrative framing for it. Sure, it's an excuse to make it, and they have no excuse for not making it, except they haven't. They've got the money, they've got the, they should have the resources, etc. But here's the version of it where they just get a small team to do it, same way they seem to have done cross-faction as a possibility. Same way they've done solo shuffle as a possibility, where that was difficult to implement technically. I believe Holinka was talking about that on Twitter. Just get a small team of quest designers, small team of quest narrative people who understand the past, and go make Lore Master into a feature, not an achievement that you do when you're kind of just looking to blast out some stuff, but an actual feature, because you've got Chromie Time, woefully underused. You've got the campaign, which is used pretty well. Imagine you have I'm trying to think of what the name of it is, but 5.1. The whole 5.1 thing, imagine that as a campaign. It wasn't the most content, But imagine you go Chromie time. You do
was so good.
Yeah, you do 5.0 as Chromie time. Maybe it's a bit abridged, whatever else. You finish whatever's done. Then it goes, hey, I see you've done this. You understand what's going on. Would you like to do 5.1? And then you go to that. And then like you've got the campaign list and a little textbook of recap. Do that in Chromie time for 5.1. Maybe you'll want to bundle all of the patches into a Mists of Pandaria and then a post Mists of Pandaria.
Yeah.
Or a Mists of Pandaria patch content campaign. But then you have this way for players to go, I want to experience Mists of Pandaria. Then they go to Chromie, they go, yo, Chromie, you're cool. Could you tell me what happened back in the day when people say this game was the shit? And then Chromie goes, right on, brother, here you go.
That's how Chromie talks.
Yeah, and then you go and do the whole thing again. Again, because you can replay this because it's just a system that works, theoretically speaking. You have all this stuff, and it just literally points you through it all. And then you have a little bit of writing, not very much, and just one central place to get this all from. A little bit just to put it back together, so anything missing's there. You have the quest triggers to play the cutscenes at the right time, so people follow, and that's it. That's all you need to do. Make campaigns for all your old content.
You could do voiceover. Like if you wanted to abridge and make it be a more seamless gameplay experience, you could bridge some of the gaps via voiceover. And what I'd say then is don't make it be achievements. Call it like, the Lore Master's Codex and actually make it be a new UI element that is really rich and really detailed that, almost feels, because some of the best UIs, like they almost feel like a toy. They feel like joyful to progress and unlock and play with. I mean, wow. And funny enough, I actually, it's just, it doesn't make sense for us to do. Maybe if WoW is to really redeem itself big time, I would consider doing it. But I actually considered redoing WoW Tales, but as a custom voiced Lore Master Codex implementation.
Yeah.
That would basically not involve any form of re-performance of Blizzard characters, but would allow for a transformationally rich narrative experience while leveling up new characters. Now to do that, we'd need funding, so it'd have to be fan funded, etc. And I just, we're making our own game now, so it's not on the cards. But at one point, that was almost the plan. Yeah, I mean, I think it would have been really cool.
Yeah, and for everyone in chat saying New Game Plus, yes, correct. That's a lot of the inspiration is from FF14's New Game Plus, which is, you've done the story, you can just do it again. But it's that idea of imagine a New Game Plus with it, because it has its own little menu, it has its own little recaps for everything. Obviously, they don't have to do much. Well, they do some work for that, but you do just go, well, here's reset your quest progress. Yeah. Here's the quests. Blizzard could ultimately get away with doing largely the same. It would take more work, and they would definitely need a decent team to actually go through it all and hand design these campaigns, hand implement them, make sure everything works. It would be a bunch of work, but it would immediately turn World of Warcraft from play the expansion and be confused into here is, by the time this is implemented, I imagine 18, 19 years of rich game history, and you can experience all. You can't experience it the same way because we'll have to maybe tune raids to be single player or something like that.
That'd be great.
That would be great.
The thing is, and I think it has to include raids.
Yeah, it has to for story.
And the thing then, like, FF14 is not shy to just be like, this big fight, it's a single player duty. That's it. Yeah. I think it's even more important for World of Warcraft than it would be for FF though, because in WoW you start off in Exile's Reach, then you do BFA, then you do friggin' Shadowlands, and then you're completely confused about everything that came before. So with WoW, I think it would be great if somebody could just actually play the full story of World of Warcraft.
Yeah.
So there's a lot that could be done.
Yeah, I mean, there's Night Stalker saying the fact that level sync can put you on a new quest progression level shows that this is possible. Yeah, that's why I'm saying this is the realistic solution. Because obviously I could sit here and explain an incredible, if I had $20 billion and I could tell all the WoW team what to do, what I would do.
Remaster it, basically.
Yeah, that's what, I could do that easily, but the difficult point is the point that I think is valuable to go, here's the realistic version, just to seed it as an idea, because the prospect that this new player who's been playing casually, playing solo, is having a bad experience, Blizzard should be thinking about that. They should be aware of that. They have the money. Absolutely.
Totally. Yeah, so that's great food for thought. And I mean, how many times have we talked about time walking and all these various things, making a campaign to experience the narrative? Yeah, it would be great. And look, I'm just thinking the way that I was able to just go and play the story of Omega, and because of the way it's set up and all of that, I can just go and do it.
Yeah.
And it holds up. And the scaling means I'm actually doing boss fights where when I fuck the mechanics up, I get killed. So it feels like a real story that I'm going through, not just old content that I'm one-shotting. And it felt great. And it's one of my Omega is one of my favorite narrative experiences in FF14. And our video on it's coming out tomorrow. Yep. But I'd love to be able to just say, hey, Throne of the Thunder King, go.
Yeah.
But there's just no conception for it. Now, in fairness, FF has got far fewer raids than World of Warcraft does. Yeah. So just being able to queue up for a raid, queue up for Throne of Thunder and, 10 people will appear. That's just not feasible within WoW, but I have to wonder if there is some way they could do it. Anyway.
Mm-hmm. Indeed.
So, are Blizzard solving their employment issues? Because
this is something I spotted earlier, but
I heard in the grapevine that they're paying more now, and a recent departure has returned. Yep. One chapter ends, another begins. Last week I said goodbye to Lightspeed LA, but I get to say hello again to a world most of us are familiar with come Monday. On Monday,
Indeed.
I'll be helping bring life to Azeroth again. Now, Mark here was, senior test analyst for 7 years, 11 months.
Long time.
Then an associate game designer for 2 years, up until March 2021. And 1 year later, is going to be moving back.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And I thought that was interesting because we spent so much time talking about how much they've, brain drain at Blizzard. They've lost a load of staff. Riot are paying double. Tencent are paying, substantially more, I imagine, for Lightspeed LA. Everyone across the industry is paying more and offering, better benefits and stuff like that. And they seem to be that's a really fundamental, existential problem. That is the equivalent of, your society isn't growing enough food level existential problem. This is fine for a while, but eventually it will figuratively kill you. And it seems like they've actually made the correct moves to solve this problem.
Yeah.
Which is, if you're going to bring someone back, maybe Mark just really loved Blizzard. Maybe, he said, he loved his time at Lightspeed LA and, best luck to the team. No hard feelings there. Just he wanted to go back to Blizzard. And I imagine they sweetened the deal there big time. And if they're able to get some of those people they lost back and bring in new people because they're offering more money or whatever else, then I think this is one small spark of hope for Blizzard.
Yeah, I mean, hey, look, if whatever the next expansion's material is cool enough for somebody to leave Lightspeed and move back to Blizzard, maybe that's a good signal. It's just one signal, so you can't really draw a trend from it, of course.
Yep.
But hey, that's good. I mean, even saw Skarsgård, I think, worked in Riot.
Yeah, went to. Well,
if you kind of go, was Skarsgård Riot then WoW, or was Skarsgård Blizzard Riot?
Riot then WoW.
Yeah, Riot then WoW. I mean,
it would never touch World of Warcraft before that.
Yeah, but certainly interesting idea.
Yeah.
Well, probably just playing World of Warcraft.
Yeah. That's
you
what
mean
that's
that
what
from
I mean.
a development.
Yeah.
Yeah. So interesting. And this is what needs to happen. Absolutely, they need to just invest massively. And it's one of those things that's really hard because look, Google doesn't give a fuck if they're paying an engineer 400k, 500k, or 600k, or a 700k. They just don't give a fuck. That quantity of money is immaterial to them.
Yeah.
That's how big the companies are. And that's why it is so hard for game development to get loads of great engineering staff and stuff like that, because you could just go into big tech sludge and earn these eye-watering silly amounts of money, because at the end of the day, 600k is nothing to Google, but for even a game startup with a 20 million, even if a game startup had 20 million seed fund, I mean, what Google's able to pay is completely smashes them, which is certainly an interesting thing for any game companies like Blizzard and like Riot, in fairness, that are based in that sort of geographical region.
Yeah,
it's pretty interesting.
Yeah. Interesting you say that, because I did see. I can't remember who they worked for. It wasn't relevant to Blizzard, I don't think. But I remember there was someone I saw on Twitter today saying, talking about working in game dev and leaving it, and they're just I literally doubled my wage. The first job the first job they looked for leaving game dev was to double their wage, and better time to work there.
Yeah,
and you're if that's game dev in general, I mean, that probably includes bigger places than Blizzard or higher paying places than Blizzard.
Yep. So now all the best, and I mean, I don't want to say the best and brightest minds because ultimately, I mean, like if I just like kept the programming going and did that instead, I could earn more money programming than I do here, right?
Yeah.
But
sure.
I also don't think I would enjoy that.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's a thing where that's why game development spent so much time being able to underpay people, because they could go, hey, we're game development. Don't you love video games? Didn't you always grow up thinking, man, I'd love to work on those? Well, now you can. So we'll exploit your passion and pay you as little as we can get away with, and also our working conditions aren't all that good, and we'll exploit your passion for crunch because you really love this product and your players, don't you? And all that stuff's just kind of.
Yeah.
As the world is changing, and I think as a lot of experienced game developers are getting older and readjusting their priorities from what is passion and passion driven, but burning them out versus, no, I want to like live a fulfilled life, and I can do that outside of work if I have a lot of money. That's the thing where it needs to adjust for that, realistically.
Yeah, it's just tricky because I think what's best is to have a good work-life balance and a job you're very passionate about. But what I think happens is these big tech companies, they have so much money, they're able to overpower that with money.
Yeah.
And, you know, I don't think that's necessarily great for humanity. I don't think it's great that what are the novel problems that our best and brightest are working on? Oh, optimizing revenue and advertising platforms.
Optimizing the YouTube algorithm to steal your time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, is that not... You couldn't pay me enough money to work on that.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think that actually is something I was vaguely talking about earlier when I was talking about, you know, how things are designed, or, you know, if things seem shit, it's likely that they're not designed that way. They just happen that way. That's a really good example of that, where it's just that, you know, no one's designed society to go, well, we will make sure we funnel the greatest people into solving humanity's problems further and foremost.
Yeah.
Because incentives align for individuals, not for groups.
That's it. I think, are we solving the most important problems? No, we're solving the most financially lucrative problems in the current conception of society.
Yeah.
I don't think that enriching Google via adverts is really for the greater good.
Yeah.
That much. I mean, then Google could maybe say, well, we are putting that into, you know, this breakthrough research funding, or maybe there's the, what do you call Priscilla Chan and Mark Zuckerberg? They have their foundation that is working on basically like solving diseases.
Yeah.
They focus on that rather than longevity. And it's like they could make that argument. But I mean, I don't know. Surely there's a better way that doesn't rely on the person at the top of that organization deciding to put their money to a good end.
Yeah, that's the problem, where a lot of those actual big moves money-wise come from people getting so rich they finally understand money doesn't make them happy as much as solving a load of problems do, especially when they get old and stuff, like Melinda and Bill Gates foundations and stuff like that. Whatever you say about them, it's still the idea of like, why does philanthropy have to come as a, you know, oh, here's an optional element to someone being hyper rich, is that they have philanthropy at the end of it.
Well, maybe a bunch of the rich people saw like how all the Vanderbilts, like the Vanderbilt heirs, were like incredibly unhappy, depressed people. And maybe they all realized, maybe instead of building the largest residential property on Earth, it would be better if I used my money to do something useful. Yep. Like, you know, maybe that's what we're relying on, but I mean, who the hell knows? Yep. Right. Okay. So, you know, we've solved the black pill. We've solved raids. We've solved society. What are we going to do next? Highlight some elvish fonts. Because this is really cool.
Levity.
Woo.
We've designed this.
There's some beautiful art as well.
Yeah, no, these are gorgeous. These are gorgeous.
Right. Now, role player and artist, Feowen, has been posting some really cool runic fonts that are free for personal use or RP. So, you know, don't use them on your branding for something you're making money out of. That's not fair. These are what these are for. And they're really, really beautiful. And they're the sort of thing, you know, they're not mega like, you know, Blizzard canon, but they have heavily been referencing canon material in in-game assets. So, you know, it's taking what's there and trying to extrapolate what a full alphabet would actually look like.
Yep.
And there we go. This is really cool. We don't really have a massive amount else to say about this or incredible analysis.
Yeah.
It's just really cool.
Yeah, I mean, it's the kind of thing where, obviously I could go in and start ranting on a load of shit about how fandom and fan community love and support for a franchise is really important. Blizzard should cherish it. But also, I think I should just shut up for a second.
But yeah, so there's Nightborn, there's Darnassian, and just this beautiful work.
Darnassian, Thalassian, and the other one.
Yeah, and also too that it's like just like there as a font. So Pandaren font, that's high on the list apparently.
Yep, can't wait for that.
Draenei, Eredin,
Nice.
go. So yeah,
That'll be very nice.
so absolutely deserving of a highlight. So this is some gorgeous work that for your RP needs or for just any fun, creative, personal use, you would highly recommend you check out this brilliant fan work.
Indeed.
Great stuff. So there we go. It was good to have nice things.
Yeah. And now, back to our regularly scheduled programming.
Matt is angry.
I'm not angry. I'm contemplative.
Now this is a really, I think, an important topic actually.
Yes.
It's far too complicated, Matt.
Yeah. Is World of Warcraft too complicated?
Yes.
For the vast majority of players, and arguably for the developers, World of Warcraft is substantially too complicated. It is
interesting.
It is an approachability problem for players. It forces players who... okay, this is being very presumptive of me. It forces players into a playstyle that they may not entirely enjoy in the long term, because it's maybe replace something else. But yeah, game's too complicated. Not to say too hard. That's a slightly different topic. Same thereabouts, but it is too complicated.
Yeah, interesting. So there's some of the inspirations here. I was not aware of this. Backlash to Dratenos and Tettle's tier lists. Is that just a lot of people being like, hey, this is going too fucking far. Fuck off with your tier lists. This is a fantasy game. Go away. Is that like the feel people are getting?
No. The backlash
what's the deal with this?
So the backlash to the tier list is fundamentally stuff where it's like, this is too much for Dratenos and Tettles to really completely understand everything and distill everything and explain everything really, really concisely.
So is it people feeling that the tier list wasn't accurate because there was so much complexity that you can't really give a good answer? Yeah,
there's some of that. And I mean, it's like, I'm looking at it, it's not to say, Dratenos and Tettles shouldn't have been on top of everything, because you look at like what a product value is and stuff like that, and et cetera, but it's just like another thing that, it was also the double legendaries, because I was interested in what I was going to play this patch, and I was looking at the double legendaries for everything, and it just hit me one day. I was like, what the fuck is going on? Why do these class writers have to write paragraph upon paragraph upon paragraph about how these interactions work for every covenant and every double legendary? Why? For me, trying to understand what I should play was like, it wasn't extremely difficult. It wasn't like, oh, well, this is too beyond me. Only giant brains, 500 IQ can understand this game. It was like, no, the recommendations are this does this because this. But the sheer amount of effort they had to go to boil it down, and that was just one thing. That was just the double legendaries. That's not considering all of the talent builds, because obviously it found out that Elemental Shaman with Night Fae and the tier 4 set can have 100% uptime on Storm Elemental, which means that Storm Elemental with the Lightning Bolt and Chain Lightning cast reduce the cast time of them so you basically stack up to extremely fast Lightning Bolt casts. If you refresh Storm Elemental before it drops off, the stack duration refreshes, but not the number of stacks. So you're basically Lightning Bolt Machine Gun, 100% uptime. And that's just the thing people had to sort of figure out. And that's the stuff that sounds really, really cool in terms of like a PoE build situation. But World of Warcraft's an MMO with all of the metagaming that's necessitated for community play. And all of that like complication, all of the convolution involved just had me thinking, who is this game made for? Because it sure as hell isn't me.
It's made for PoE players.
And it sure as hell isn't most people I've played World of Warcraft in my time.
It's made for PoE players. Surely, when you look at Mythic Plus and the way that they've designed these systems, it's made for people like PoE, right?
Yeah.
It sounds like that's what the designers like, and they certainly took all those Diablo inspirations at a point.
Yeah.
It makes me think it's definitely not where I want the game to go, but it doesn't really seem like they are sort of designing from first principles, kind of like with an eye to making an MMO. It seems like they're a little bit lost in the woods, but just taking inspirations from how like ARPGs do shit, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's like it has all got just silly complex. I suppose that's the thing. It's a lot cheaper to innovate in systems and to, chop and change systems, right? It's, like, I don't know, do they get inspired by PoE, seasons?
PoE leagues, yeah, probably.
Leagues.
Well, I mean, that's the thing. If they get inspired by them, they certainly don't show it all that well in terms of the execution. The entire M plus affixes thing feels like something PoE would have done one season, called shit, and moved on.
Yeah. I suppose just that thing. I mean, I generally take I take the opinion that whenever you have to resort to a timer to get your difficulty, that's just a bit lazy. But I think they ultimately do just want this to be the sort of infinitely replayable thing. So anyway, thinking about how to approach Mythic Plus as an average player. Yeah, well, I mean, that's it. It's Mythic Plus is designed for Mythic Plusers. It's not designed for average MMO players.
Yeah, but it's a pillar of gameplay. A pillar of in-game gameplay.
Yeah, but they've they've basically carved it up into like these sort of gameplay niches, and for me, I mean, raid's just the thing that I'd be interested in Mythic Plus. I don't have any extended interest in, just because the timer just makes all the dungeons feel the same. It's like just sort of doing the same thing with different tactics.
Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah.
I think it also homogenizes
it definitely
like what a dungeon is, because it now has to be designed within this competitive format.
Yeah, which is already showing issues with Tazavesh. Because Tazavesh, they definitely designed that knowing that it was going to be an M+, but they didn't care it was going to be an M+. So a lot of the minigames, a lot of the RP was throwing people a lot of problems this week.
Interesting.
Imagine they'll iron them all out, so Mythic Plus people will be happy enough. But yeah, and I think Mythic Plus is like, it's... The complexity is also in the gameplay that makes it kind of fun in there. Because there's multiple forms of complexity. There's one at the my character, what does my character do? And rotations are simple. They're very simple. They're almost abysmally simple in a lot of cases. But everything that feeds into that couple of buttons is quite complicated in terms of your legendaries, your soulbinds, your conduits, a bunch of passives, other stuff like that. And that's the complexity. That's kind of the stuff for strategists and class writers that they love sitting down and going, oh, how's this going to work? Blah, 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 blah. I think that's perfectly fine. Maybe that complexity is way too much for the average player, and they reduce it to metagaming because, yep, here's some real world knowledge. I can't remember when it happened or what it was, but it was called it was a experiment about choice and pasta jars in supermarkets where
whoa.
Yeah, so I'll have to look this up later, but they're basically too much choice overwhelms people. You go into a supermarket and the experiment was something like, here's a load of different like slight variations of flavors on pasta sauce flavors, and above a certain amount of choices people didn't choose, took longer to choose, or felt frustrated and left, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Whereas if it was reduced to a small handful of choices, people went, I'll take them. And that's kind of the thing we have with all of this gameplay systems.
Totally.
Yeah, where it's like Covenants is a choice, fine, that's fine. Covenants and Legendary is a choice, that's, you're now kind of exponentially adding stuff. You're exponentially adding you're going, talents to the power of 4 in terms of consideration for Covenants. Then you add Soulbinds and Conduits, and now you've got this extremely complicated game, like utterly extremely complicated, of like people just simcraft stuff. I mean, they always did with gear, but now it's the only way to understand what's happening.
Yeah, and now with double Legos across 4 Covenants for every single spec. It's like, 36 specs in the game? So you got 36 times 4, and then whatever the double Lego. I mean, oh my god. How the hell do you balance that? How do you get your head around that as a designer? It must be really hard.
Yeah, so I think that that is a bad experience for players. It's a good experience for some players who like thinking about that and like having options. Like, what's it called? Enhancement Shaman currently has 3 substantial build choices. One around Necrolord, one around Nightfey, one around, I think it's... I can't remember if it's Venthyr. I think it's Kyrian. I can't remember. I was looking this up a little bit earlier. And I think that's cool. But that's like accidental because of how all this stuff... Maybe it's on purpose, but it's really awkwardly done. It's like through tweaking 5,000 different things. And I think that's too complex. But then there's Mythic Plus complexity as well, which is, how do you approach a Mythic Plus dungeon? Look up a route.
Dungeon tools?
You look up a route with Method Dungeon Tools. Is it still Method Dungeon Tools or was it split off?
It's just called Dungeon Tools.
Oh yeah, Dungeon Tools. Yeah, so you Dungeon Tools, there you go. Because someone else has to do all the complex thinking because this is so intense. Because it's so hard to optimize, but you want to optimize because performance optimization is how the entire game is built.
Because of the timer?
Yeah, and it's not like the timer's like... Because I see Pupper Doggo is usually pretty good at calling me out for shit that I say that's... just not very experienced or not correct.
I think that saying the
disagreeing.
timer's for casual, I think that's insane.
Yeah,
honestly.
like Pupper Doggo said, the timer creates a difficulty that a bad player can ignore. You can tell yourself you're as good as the max or whatever if you only cared to make time. You can't though. I disagree because that's like, maybe I don't disagree. That's true, but because you can't ignore the timer, but the timer's there. You're not going to ignore the timer. The timer is there. You don't just ignore things.
That's not. Yeah, that's just. Like, that's just legit not how it works.
Yeah, that's an excuse that Blizzard is. Oh, it's fine. This is optional, but that's not how players will experience that because tanks. I mean, because you want to look at real world. I put tanks in Mythic Plus. Where are they? I can't find any. None exist. No one wants the tank. Tanks are probably at their like worst population. Maybe it's a little bit different recently, but throughout the past couple expansions, I found tanks are a lot rare.
I would never start tanking in the third season of a WoW expansion because I'd have to learn every route for every dungeon and all the things. Whereas at least in a DPS, whereas for a DPS, I just follow the people and kill the things.
Yeah.
I mean, the time where I enjoyed dungeons the most was the launch of Cataclysm and those heroics. Where, they were hard and we die a bunch and it's like, all right, I died. I have to do better next time. And, you don't feel like you're going to be punished by having your key depleted, meaning you've got to go and do that dungeon again, lower difficulty, just to get back to where you were, which I think is one of the worst feeling things that's ever been put in a game. And I think that's just like so silly. I mean, just, the whole idea of key depletion, that should just be manual if people want less, but they shouldn't deplete a key whenever you lose because you've lost. Like, you didn't complete the dungeon in time. That's your punishment. No need to stab someone in the dick once they're on the ground. Like,
and here's this is the kind of thought that came out of nowhere. So there's generally, as far as I'm aware, in World of Warcraft's history, there's been cases of players saying they want one thing, Blizzard following along, and then players not really engaging with that very much. And then Blizzard going, well, no, we can't give you what you want because you don't want it. You've only said you wanted it. And I think people make that a lot with...
It does happen in games.
Yeah, that absolutely. People make that with the Cata heroics. Like, it was too hard. People didn't do that much. You're just, you're rose-tinted goggles or whatever else, or you're a minority. That's
most engaged I've ever been in a WoW dungeon. Loved it. But yeah.
Yeah, but maybe, people who are more casual or weren't as willing to devote time that time were more like, I like the idea, but not the game. Not playing it. Here's the thing. And this is very personal because this is how I feel an awful lot about character action games. I love the idea of playing them more than I love playing them because I'm too much of a modern goopy-brained gamer to sit and play Devil May Cry 5 for 80 hours to feel as exceptional, but the possibilities there. I always know I have that disc sitting there. I could fire that in. I could have a whale of a time doing stuff that I'm never going to do because I'm just... The aspiration's there, but the will isn't. And I think that's the same for this stuff. People liking the idea of your game is more important than them liking playing your game because the idea is more important than their continued engagement than actually playing it. Whoa. At least, I'm saying that as a statement of fact. What it really is a personal perspective based on, I was about to say damn near 30 years of playing video game. I'm not that old just yet. 25, 24 years of playing video games. And I think that's one thing that people need to keep in mind when they're thinking about this. Like, people are wrong. They play loads of Mythic Plus, and they like the timer, otherwise they wouldn't play. It's like, people play because people would rather have a game they want to play and don't than a game they play and don't want to play, I think. And that's where the complexity comes in. Because you look at you look at, again, to go back to tanks, you look at tanks and you're like, no one's playing tank because it's an awful experience. It's a nightmare. People love the fantasy of tanking, but they don't want to actually tank because learning Mythic Plus is way too complicated.
Yeah,
there's so many routes you have to learn, and people are toxic as hell towards tanks for not knowing routes because everyone's performance optimized.
Because of the timer. And
because of the timer, yeah.
And yeah, that's the thing with Blizz. They always... it's like the soft skills that they mess up, I suppose.
Yeah.
It's the human element that they don't anticipate.
Precisely.
So I guess when you say when is depth an approachability issue, that's absolutely...
That's fundamentally that,
Yeah, tanxiety.
Yep.
I'm never tanking an M+.
Yeah.
I mean, I will at the start of an expansion, but...
Yeah, laugh at tanxiety if you want, but it happens, it's true. It's real.
Yeah. And it would never really happen in a really hard kata-style heroic. Or, if there was just mythic and super mythic, but no timer, because all that matters is, did you beat the boss or not?
Well, it might, but for a different reason.
For a different reason, and I think a reason that's a lot more approachable.
Yeah, which is, that seems too hard for me. Not, I want to do that because I think I can, but I don't want to bother learning it all.
Yeah.
That's a big thing in fighting games as well, where it's like, I'm pretty sure I have the skill, that'd be really cool, but that takes a lot of time to grind out, game knowledge.
So, how do we combine or segregate performance-oriented and non-performance-oriented players? So in a single-player game, that already happens.
Indeed, yep.
You choose, like, do you want to do the John Madden, the crazy playstyle in Elden Ring, or do you want to just, go sword and board? That sort of dynamic difficulty in Dark Souls or Souls-like games is just being a thing. Yeah,
it's exceptional because even I've had a recent experience there where I've been like, I'm going to play this I'm going to play this Elden Ring like the perfect vision of me from the past played Dark Souls, which is, keeping a low soul level, no health, dual wielding a great sword, going around, just dodge rolling through everything. Oh wait, Elden Ring's designed for a lot more choice in my build, so I'm going to engage with the game mechanics and be really strong as a character instead of being a dumbass. And that's me actively going, I haven't liked the increase in difficulty in Souls games as they've got more complex after 1 and 2. 3, Bloodborne and Elden Ring have a lot more aggressive enemies. Their enemy tracking is way, way stronger on attack, so you can't do as much neat sidestepping anymore. Basically, it's gotten harder. I haven't enjoyed that super much experientially, so I've opted to tune the difficulty down through being a bit more non-performance oriented for a change.
Yeah, but it all works. Single player game.
Yep.
Yeah. With multiplayer, though, that happens because of different types of content. Great gameplay that works for non-performance oriented players and performance oriented players.
Yeah, that's hard.
Multiple forms of gameplay that work for each. And to have dungeons accomplish all that's just really challenging. While also having it work with the reward systems and incentives of actually going into those dungeons in the first place. Challenge.
Indeed. Yep. Indeed.
Challenge, I mean, in many ways, Mythic Plus has probably saved a part of WoW, because ultimately, people in the past didn't run dungeons.
Yeah,
it became irrelevant.
Yeah, it's interesting content for people to do. So in that regard, it has been absolutely a success. I think it is a success that has masked a substantial amount of other failure, because you've got all your performance-oriented players are happy enough doing it, but all your non-performance-oriented players are going through the motions of it and maybe not super engaged, and you've also went, engagement up. Don't need to make more content.
Yeah, so I don't really know what the solution is here. But certainly there's I like to think about, shared truths and stuff and shared aspirations. And I think my line is when we were having a conversation earlier, the whole World of Warcraft should be rock hard. Yeah. How much of that is a big shared lie, a big shared delusion? Because we obviously want there to be, hard content there, but do we think about fun as much? It's
clearly not.
Yeah, sometimes, it's like we praise difficulty, we praise get good, we praise all of that so much that sometimes it's like, okay, well, I can get how, let's create interesting problems for our players to solve. If that's your North Star, you're going to make a very hard game. And often they do that in WoW.
Yeah.
But what about fun? What about trying to make the most fun boss mechanic, and that's your North Star, instead of the most interesting challenge to overcome for a group of people playing it like that's a team sport?
Yeah.
And, maybe you come to different conclusions, different sorts of content. And I think we kind of go to the is WoW too complicated? Here's where some of that comes in. We look at FF, sometimes it has these like more simple boss fights, but the spectacles there, like there's this like crazy level of fun that's there because of the spectacle and just because of where they've decided to put their points into.
Yep.
So, yeah.
That's fundamentally it.
Yeah.
Make them fun, not hard. There's an overlap between fun and hard, but I don't think...
Painsmith.
Painsmith,
Painsmith gets to be that overlap because it's such a visceral fight.
Yeah.
It's such a visceral fight. The mechanics work really well. It's just like it's one of those fights that really clicks super well. I actually think that Zymox is another really good example of that. And you'll definitely see with me, there'll be fights with big spectacle and big group movement. I generally like them more. I know not all people are like that.
Yeah.
But I think that maybe for the average player, those are the most fun because they just have that level of like they're visceral. The level of fantasy is really strong.
Yeah.
Whereas I think the more that a fight gets weak or easy, the kind of less I'm in on it.
Yeah, although that's more likely going to be the fight that's remembered as good or fun because the discourse is largely controlled by the players that they've catered to the most for the longest time, which is just a kind of unfortunate way it's kind of gone, where thinking about the average player having some fun would probably be a good change of pace, because I don't know if it happens super well, but it definitely happens sometimes, because I said this for last week for Zerath Mortis. I don't know whoever designed the resonant peaks, but good job. You're definitely onto something. I wish it wasn't gated by the ciphers, or rather, I like how it's gated by the ciphers. I wish the ciphers weren't gated the way they were.
Yeah, that's maybe more fair.
So they know how to make things fun. They know how to make things novel. Zerath Mortis Questings proved that. Some of the encounters they made prove that. They just need to, I think, move a little bit towards fun. What is fun? And you're like, what is fun? That's hard to make fun.
I think about like some of the bosses I really enjoy. Like I thought Grimrail Depot was great. I thought Auchindoun.
Yeah.
I thought it was a really great dungeon.
Grimrail.
I guess I think about some of those. It's like Grimrail. It's like that's a novel thing. I think about Auchindoun, and it's like, well, those are like simple bosses with clear mechanics that are quite satisfying.
Yeah.
I think of Shadow Moon Burial Grounds. I actually just think WoD had brilliant dungeons.
WoD's dungeons were the best.
They're
not
incredible.
the best, but they're extremely good. Yeah.
I'd love to see WoD Mythic Plus.
Mists are really good as well.
I mean, okay, I say WoD Mythic Plus as in I'd love to do WoD dungeons like.
You want to see the modern? You want to do them.
No.
You want to do them while they're relevant now.
Yeah.
You want them to be made. You would
so good.
Yeah, you would like to do WoD dungeons the way you would go and do a Shadowbringers dungeon now.
Remember patch 6.2.3?
No, because
That's when
don't
they
remember
added
patches.
mythic dungeons for the first time.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
all
Holy
the WoD
shit!
dungeons were there
Yeah,
in mythic mode. It was great.
that was
Yeah.
especially because you needed to finish the mythic for the legendary ring, didn't you? Or was that to work? No.
No, the
Then
mythic,
did I just do a whole bunch of mythic dungeons for no reason? Shit.
the mythic dungeons came in after the
Oh, yeah.
expansion was done.
Oh shit! Yeah.
That was that incredible patch. I think it brought mythic dungeons and it brought time walking. It was like amazing.
Huh.
Yeah, for a systems patch, it was incredible. Yeah.
Yeah, I just remember doing so many WoD dungeons, and I remember getting annoyed at Iron Dock because it's very big, and I remember getting annoyed at Grimrail because hallway camera. But
Okay, fair. Yeah.
otherwise, I think WoD dungeons were incredible. I definitely didn't like all the skips in the Evergrowth.
fair.
But yeah, though they were great.
Next thing,
They were great.
patch 6.1. You found adventure. Let's go.
Yep.
Let's go.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Okay.
You found
Right. Final Fantasy 14 and Walker's first big patch is on the way, and well, here's TLDR of the content.
Yep.
Obviously, new MSQ, Tataru's Grand Endeavor side quest, the Elephant People tribe quest,
Arcasadara.
Arcasadara. There we go. More Hildebrand. That's 6. Well, okay, these are 6.15. Omega. I've just finished Omega, and now it turns out there's
was a
Omega Beyond the
follow-up.
Rift
Yep.
coming. We've got improvements to a Realm Reborn MSQ. What?
Oh yeah, the what do you call it? I think that's
Is that the Trust expansion?
no. I think that one is actually just some miscellaneous stuff, unless that is them talking about the moving Castrum and Praetorium down into 3-4-man things.
New
which
duty
is
support.
sick.
New duty support system. New dungeon, which will part of the MSQ. A new trial.
Yep. Oh, I'm actually so unbelievably
big
excited for
Endsinger
that.
Extreme, yes. Ultima's Bane Unreal Trial.
Yep.
Unreal Trials.
Unreal
I've not done
Trials.
any of those again.
Unreal Trials are basically just, instead of going back to do Ultimate's Bane, we've designed this again for max level. So same fight, but tuned for max level with all your abilities and stuff like that.
Nice.
I don't know how many changes because I haven't done them myself, but yeah.
And would that sit in like at almost a level 90 version of a non-extreme trial, or would that be like a level 90 extreme?
I think it's supposed to be slightly harder than extreme or around there.
Okay, so new extreme, basically.
Yeah,
nice.
that's ultimate.
Of course, Myths of the Realm Alliance raid, exploring the 12. That's going to be, fucking hell. I mean, because it's not just, here's some new bosses to fight. There's a story, just like Crystal Tower and all that.
Yep.
Dragon Song's Reprise, the new Ultimate Duty. Crystalline Conflict, the new PvP.
Yeah.
Custom deliveries for
Millions.
Bellular.
Yep, you can put the twins' mother in some custom outfits.
Yep. People are, oh dear.
Yeah, people have been sharing her in a butler outfit today, and it's been activating neurons.
We've got the new residential district for Imperium.
Yep.
Big Ishgard housing. Adventurer plates, Unending Codex, which is, I believe, the lore codex.
Big lore codex. That
really
will,
cool to have in game.
Expand as you unlock stuff and play the game.
Data center travel in 6.18. Additional New Game Plus chapters.
Yep.
Feature to try out items on the online store before you use them, as well as new mounts, minions, and emotes, and more.
Yep, that is a bumper patch to be made in 4 months.
Yeah, so this is going to be coming out mid-April, everyone.
Yeah, which is when to expect all of other MMO announcements to happen.
Yeah. So you should be saying everything leading up to 6.0 was the Heidelin Zodiac arc. We're starting something new, but of course, in the same form, will be a continuation. Yeah. So, we've got all the things that a certain character name dropped before we went into the final trial. That could potentially, the exploration of those could be hinted at. Exploring the 12 as well.
Yep.
Via the new Alliance raid.
The first truly original Alliance raid.
Yep. So, it's gonna be fucking cool. Tatara's Grand Adventure, so side quest with her.
Yep, which is all about it's all about people who were there at the end, just going around, but like, cheers for showing up, big man. I assume a bit more interesting than that.
Yep. New role quests. There we go. So new role quests as well.
Yeah, the new one, which will be because the Shadowbringers role quests, when you did them all, there was an additional part that unlocked that teased some future stuff they were doing. I imagine this will be largely the same.
Yeah. There's Sir Amric.
Yep.
This is good because I would like more of him at all times.
Somewhat.
All right, tribal quests then. So, I mean, there'll be, dailies and things like that to do. We presume around the alchemy.
It's the battle class stuff for those ones.
Oh.
Yeah.
We were talking about alchemy earlier.
Yeah, no, I for clarity, I hadn't actually seen what the Arcus at our tribe quests were, but the tribe quests are the battle ones because they usually go with one battle, one gathering, one crafting.
So there's that. Hildebrand. I need to do Hildebrand.
Just big side quest.
Yeah, so I know people are extremely excited for this character returning. And also surprised that this character's returning, so I need to do Hildebrand. That's basically that's. I mean,
that. You look at the quote there, and it's with a lot of requests from this around the world. 6.0 reviews, especially by overseas media, asked UCP a lot when's Hildebrand back. And I said, the dev team let their humor out during these cutscenes, and they're very heavy on their budget. One thing that people have always said before is that. You can see whenever you go from expansion to expansion, you see a massive upgrade in cutscene quality, a lot of them like trying or new techniques they seem to have learned, which is really interesting. People have shown a lot of Hildebrand stuff from the expansion before and going, this is the first time they did this. They tried to do this specific type of animation or this specific type of shot in the Hildebrand stuff because they were just being creative and having fun with it.
Ground.
So they're just like, fuck it, let's just do cool shit. And then later on, they're like, oh, we can do this in MSQ. And you're like, nice.
Sequel to Omega. Yes, my Omega video comes out tomorrow. Omega's so fucking good. Oh my god. Yeah. Okay. So for obviously narrative reasons that you'll know if you know, they think they could add a quest that clarifies a little more in the connections made. So I think that's very cool and very well timed for how I've been playing the game.
Indeed.
Right. ARR MSQ improvements. So that's just the previously mentioned stuff, which I mean we could assume is like Praetorium and all of that. New dungeon. Yes. What will the story be? How will we get there? We'll find out.
Yep.
New, of course, the new Extreme.
Yeah, and the comments will not make me so happy. I have cleared it, but it was difficult. They don't want to make it too easy, but they want to respect the developer's feeling, which is cool. So I think
I'm terrified.
The trial in normal was really, really hard.
T2.
Not really hard, but like generally hard conceptually because the mechanics are so cool.
Yeah. T2 fucked me up doing T2E for the first time. So man, yeah, it's gonna be cool.
Yeah.
Ultima's Bane.
Yep.
As well, so the Unreal of that. Myths of the Realm, which I don't think we have too much else to expand on, but exploring the 12 and here are some cool art.
Yep,
well,
and
cool screenshot.
Specifically he chose that screenshot out of a lot they had prepared because that was the only one that you couldn't tell where this was. He's like, you will not be able to figure out where that is, but every other one did. So,
Dragon Song Ultimate, so that is firmly the category of things that I'm just not good enough at the game to even consider trying.
It is almost. I mean, that's the thing. It's 8 people. There's all you have to do is go do it basically.
Yeah.
And there you go. It's just, well, here's the thing, right? It's such a great version of the experience because it's not just here's a harder difficulty version. It's not just this one hits harder, has more mechanics. This is a reimagining of the fight that is effectively entirely just fanning head canon stuff that isn't real, but an abridged version of the whole story with mad shit. Like there's 2 dragons, there's the Heaven's Vault Knights, all that stuff, and also Mr. Ozma designed the fight. So that's certainly going to be interesting. Certainly, and I imagine it's going to be hard.
Job adjustments.
Yeah,
find more part 2, but maybe Reapers won't just get to top the charts for free.
Maybe.
Which I believe is what the prevailing opinion had ended up being.
Yeah.
For PvP then, so Crystalline Conflict, which is the small-scale PvP mode that they outlined a decent bit in one of the pre-Endwalker launch live letters. Looks interesting. We'll just have to see how it fits. I think definitely I'd find it a bit harder to see PvP in FF14 as opposed to WoW, but I'm willing to give it a shot, see how it is. Custom delivery, so neurons are firing. People are very excited about all this.
Yeah, people love their aesthetics.
That's it. Ishgard housing. So, I mean, Ishgard's just got such a place in people's hearts because of how strong Heavensward is. So, good luck. We'll probably need it. Adventure plates, calling cards, basically. So this is a new profile display feature. Basically, it's customizable character portraits for your own character, right?
Yep. Yeah, and they were not finished in time for the live letter, so we couldn't show them.
That's almost like... I mean, actually, World of Warcraft had that, didn't it? For the default UI, the further you went up the PvP prestiges, you get like more chevrons in your...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, cool little features. Yeah. I like little things like that in the UI. Yeah. Then the Unending Codex. I mean, great. So glossary of characters and terms up through 6.0, unlocked in the main scenario of 6.1 and added to your collection. Yeah. So just there you go. There's the story. Go have the story. I think this is great. So have the story be in the game. It's people, it'll be satisfying for people to unlock more here. So I just think that's brilliant.
Also, referring back to old characters will be very good because there's so much of Heavensward I've completely forgotten because I did it when I didn't care about the game quite as much because it was substantially worse back then, and that was like 2016 or 20 whatever year the game came out. I was like, I had so many cards. I'm like, I don't remember you. I'm so sorry.
Yeah. Data center travel in 6.18.
Indeed.
Then also, New Game Plus, Hrothgar hairstyles, more glamour plates, and locations where they can be used. So that's good. And trying on items from the store.
Yep.
So what's this? I personally don't really want to implement this feature. I know there are players who'd go as far as saying, "Let me buy them in game." It makes sense from a business perspective, but I am skeptical. Oh, okay. So that's not the idea of like, I don't want someone to be able to try before they buy. It's I don't really like the deeper integration.
Yep. It is literally, I never wanted the online store to be available through the game, but people have asked to be able to check these out, so we've put them off. We've put them off in the inn when you're going to the bed only, which is something you fairly rarely do. So you have to go very much out of your way in order to see online store stuff.
Okay, I prefer
which
that.
is, could you imagine, like, basically, could you imagine any Western developer saying this?
No. No. Oh, man.
Or any Eastern one, to be honest, like.
I mean, then big changes. New idle animation for parasols.
Yep.
Yep. Checkmark displayed in items used to obtain minions, mounts, etc.
Yep.
already acquired.
Which is very
That's
fun
actually
because,
really useful.
yeah, so they said that was impossible. And now they've made it possible. There's been a mod that allowed you to do that for years.
Well, guess some database stuff happened.
I'm sure.
Improved market search and market board visual updates as well.
Yep.
And then, so there's, of course, the duty support system, which is now what their name of the trust system changes. And then also, that's just those changes we already talked about.
Yeah.
Expanded trust system is pretty neat.
Mm-hmm.
Also, I mean, should be good for the story in sometimes. Like,
Yep.
you know, if you can do the vault with Horse Font, that would be stronger.
Yep.
And then, all right, so in 6.1, oh, wow.
Yep.
Yeah, okay, nice.
Mm-hmm.
Well, okay, no. So, I mean, man, doing Praetorium, like, that is such a stronger experience doing Praetorium with characters. Holy shit.
Yeah.
Like, you just stop and think about that. That is so much better.
Yeah. There's like, we're very sorry there's been a problem for a long time. We'll fix it eventually. And they've just fixed it. And they've fixed it in a way that's like, we might as well just fix every other problem while we're here.
Yeah. Westwind might actually be cool. Solo battle.
I will say I'm definitely sad by the loss of memes we'll have.
We all are. We all are. But no, so I just think this is all great.
Yep.
I mean, the more they can do to polish up A Realm Reborn, holy shit.
Yep.
They need to. Changes to the main scenario roulette. Okay, so the available duties are going to be... yes. So there's the Ultima Battle, Praetorium, and Meridianum. Those are going to be in the main scenario roulette.
Yep.
And they plan to adjust the rewards received. I assume lowering them... Wait. No. I don't know.
They're definitely going to lower the
Yeah, they're gonna
rewards.
lower them,
They're not
yeah.
going to be like, here,
Yeah,
do Praetorium without the fight at the end. Here's a level.
All I was thinking of is if they changed it such that people were doing less skipping, then maybe it would actually be longer, but I'll screw it. I'm not sure. Anyway, in 2.0, the sounds are very spread out, so you won't see them often, if at all, for the dungeons, but we did think about which NPCs players would want to see in certain dungeons for the support. Thinking about changing Thron March, but that's only a thought for now. Data center travel, so visit your friends. But there are going to be some restrictions, which is all just about like the data centers and stuff.
Yep.
So
Please understand.
a big please understand moment, basically with all of that.
Yep.
So essentially, like if you kind of look at the amount of content here, I mean, because it's because you have to think about what all this actually means.
It's insane.
I mean, so that's going to be like 4 hours of game, 4 or 5 hours probably.
I believe now this was a very heavy one, but 5.3 was because people were comparing.
Shit, you're right.
5.3 was like 4.5 hours of cutscenes. So you're looking at a long time of actual content, especially because of everything else.
So this could be 4 to 6 hours of story.
Yeah.
And then Hildebrand.
Yep.
I have no idea how long that will be. Same goes for the Tataru stuff.
Yep.
And the Omega. But then
all just quest stuff like.
Yeah, and then of course for quest content for Myths of the Realm, that's
that's going to
could that be an hour? 40 minutes, 30 minutes?
Probably
I mean,
longer.
Hard to know.
Probably longer. The
Yeah.
Alliance raid stuff usually takes a lot longer than the normal raid stuff.
Gotcha. Okay, well in that case it's
Much more
beefy narrative.
Yeah, and also that's a like three major boss raid.
Yeah. So there's a lot.
Yep.
Yeah, there's a lot. And I like the way that they are able to split up their content so they can just kind of have like a little bit of everything all the time.
Yeah.
And then of course with 6.2, it's probably going to be like September.
Well, that'll be 4 months from April, so that'll be August.
Or August. Oh, no.
Yeah, because they have a schedule that they stick to.
Yeah, I mean that's when we're going to get the Island Sanctuary.
Yeah.
More of I was about to say Praetorium, Pandemonium.
Yep.
Yeah. Big. Very interested to see what these Criterion dungeons are like.
That'll be very interesting.
because that seems to be something they're trying a bit new.
Yeah, that literally it is just, yeah, we're sorry, our dungeons are always just, you do the dungeon and then you don't have any, well, they're fun because the mechanics are designed to be fun, but, you know, you're never challenged in a dungeon again unless someone you play with is really bad. That's the only time you get challenged because it's just over. And now they're like, people want the 4-man content that's hard, maybe we'll try it out. So, we'll see what that looks like. If it's, I don't know if it's, I haven't actually read of what they were talking about, if it was new dungeons or existing ones made harder, but at any rate, that Criterion stuff seems...
Yeah, so look, Team Strong, even though they are currently redeploying resources toward, the various different technical improvements they're making for the next expansion and graphical improvements. So it's a bloody strong showing, especially considering if they don't have the budget of WoW. Maybe they do now.
They probably do now.
But historically, they had not had the budget of WoW.
Yeah, because it was before Endwalker. It was talking to, I can't remember his name, the current owner of 4chan, and talking about World of Warcraft, and he laughed saying, I wish I had the budget World of Warcraft did.
Yeah.
Or am I remembering that wrong? Was that a different time?
Who knows?
If I made that up. Anyway, he definitely said that at some point, and it was long enough ago that it might have changed, but maybe not.
So hopefully he gets that budget.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not even the most like revenue, it's the most profitable Final Fantasy game.
Yeah. So. Which is wild for...
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, incredible. Incredible.
Yep.
So there we go. Great stuff coming in April. So much MMO.
There's so much
MMO out right now. Holy shit.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is for anyone. I'm sure most people in chat have FF players at this point in time, but like, yeah, that's what people have come to expect. That's why people are happy to take a break from this game, because they take a break from this game and know they'll come back to having a shit ton of content.
Yeah, you feel well taken care of, and it's predictable. And if something that happens against what you would predict, they let you know about it in advance. They explain why, and they say they're sorry and please understand.
Yep.
And there you go. It works.
Yeah, it is.
It just turns out be open.
Yeah.
And it's like, for all the things that like big Japanese companies are known for, it's generally not being great at the community and being very open. But here they are.
Yeah, well, that's the thing where
showing how it's done.
Like, obviously, I absolutely laugh about how Japanese developers have generally make more interesting games in the West on average, sometimes worse, but more interesting as a sort of personal experience. But a lot of what Yoshi P is doing isn't a Japanese thing. It's a Yoshi P thing. It's this fella really loves himself some MMOs. He really loves MMOs. He knows exactly what makes them tick, and he's not culturally blocked off. Even MMOs may have helped that. Where I don't know, because I don't know how much exposure he had to, especially because he doesn't like flying. I imagine he had a little exposure to non-Japanese culture until he played MMOs and played lots of them, like in the West. But because in his oh my god, what's it called? In the Famitsu columns, usually uncensored, he talks about having friends at Ubisoft and how he talks to them quite a lot. And there's one specifically, he was really frustrated because he invited him up to his house one time. He was in Canada, or I think he was in Canada or maybe the North America, and went up. But he was really annoyed because this dude's house, he said it felt like a European mansion. But in Japan, because they're so much smaller and highly populated, they have less land per individual, so he lives in like a relatively small enough place, and he's just like annoyed because he kind of felt this person was living in like a mansion because it was just the Canada outside the city. But he's very, very much open to other forms of game development and how they approach it, and he has a lot of thoughts on how that's happened in the West and the East and how to communicate with players. So it's definitely not just Japan good. It's like, that's true, but also,
he pushed things forward himself.
Yeah. Japan can also make things like Babylon's Fall.
Haha! Uh-oh!
I love Square Enix. They're very good at making video games.
The live service platinum game that you have to pay a full box price for.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah. Oh, hang on,
Why?
actually. Yeah.
Why have they done this?
Yeah, so, yeah. In case you think, I'm some sort of Square Enix shill, let's find out. Babylon's Fall SteamDB. The greatest new live service from them currently has a peak of, please click charts. Where's the number? Oh, the peak's way up from what it used to be. So you think Lost Ark at 1.3 million was big? Babylon's Fall has 1.1 thousand.
Oh no! Oh no!
Less than 400 players playing it now, by the way.
Oh dear.
Yeah.
That's
Also,
Well,
it's
remember
not
that-
on Xbox, so it can't go on Game Pass.
remember that tweet? Mm-hmm. The tweet from your man was like, "This wasn't the game they wanted
Liam
to make."
Robertson, yeah.
Yeah, so
Yep.
I imagine there's drama there, and certainly Square Enix have forced devs to make live service games, much to the detriment of the games, such as I was going to say Square Enix Human Revolution, no, Deus Ex Human Revolution, one of the Just Cause games. They tried to turn that into a live service.
Oh yeah, that's right.
The Super Bunny Hops reporting from years ago.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah.
to wrap us up, this is getting
1.2. 1,188 players.
to wrap things up. We do have some, the videos we've done
Yes.
this week.
Is it below expectations? Yes, I think. I cannot wait for their next earnings call. Babylon's Fall performed below our expectations. I wonder will Kotaku do an article? Square Enix are hard to please then.
No, because they're all on strike.
Oh shit! Yeah, yeah. So don't go. Oh, did you see? Actually, Kotaku. The owners are turning Kotaku AU into
Yep.
unwilling scabs class.
And Kotaku AU is actually like, it's a different company.
Yeah.
It's just an affiliate site, and that's the branding.
Yeah, it's like yoink.
Very funny. Just right, content, just so you're aware. Right, we have our Arthas video.
Yep.
Or Arthas Arbor cinematic video. Breaking that down. We've got the jailer's whole plan. If you want to know what's actually going on, we'll give you the story in one video, so you can actually wrap your head around just how it is. SWOTOR. I hop back in, so you can check out the SWOTOR video. And you know what? It's an interesting one, because I think it's absolutely worth playing, even though it's in a little bit of a spicy situation right now.
Yep.
Over for news. Gabe being good boy.
Yeah, absolutely, good boy.
We've got the funky mixed launch situation for what is, by all accounts, one of the best games ever made.
Stopped a very positive note. God bless.
Yep. Dragon Age. Well, we had the fun there of, you know what? Could seem bad, but actually, there are maybe good reasons. There are good noises coming out of BioWare, which we're certainly happy about, because we would like BioWare to be firing on all cylinders like they used to.
Yep.
Right, this is a fun one, going through LinkedIn.
This one is also very relevant to MMO developers, I think.
Yeah, basically it's hard to retain staff in live service games, because it's like, hey, you want to make the same game for the next 10 years?
Yeah.
For a lot of people, that's not really super cool.
Yeah.
Then we have got this entire insane Titan Reach story. Insane.
Yeah. If you want the story of an MMO that was promising, and then the thumbnail there says poop emoji hit the fan. It didn't so much hit the fan as I don't even really know how to describe an image worse than that. It was a very, very big fan, and there was a lot of it.
Big disaster. And a crazy story.
Yeah.
This like crypto investor just giving them 300 grand a month. Then the dev just goes and like gambles 150k of that on another crypto thing. You're like, holy shit, what have you done?
That's so big.
Capcom, maybe trying to copy how Blizzard do esports. Please no, Capcom. Please no. Please
Yep.
no.
Please
Please
don't.
no. Matt's been a FGC fan for a very, 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 very long time.
Yep.
Don't make him sad.
Since picking up Blizz Blue in 2011.
Yep. So there we go. Lots of content this week. Omega video out tomorrow.
Yep.
Oh, it's so good. And no, just stuff going on.
Plenty of it. Definitely. Yep.
There we go. I am slightly tired because it's a bit of a scuffed, interesting week. So
Indeed.
time for the old R and the R, I think. And recharge next week hard. We're doing, there's fun things going on. Me and Matt have been doing IKEA trips. Nikki as well. He was in today. We've got these really cool acoustic panels that go into the dropped roof, the dropped ceiling of our downstairs, our new room, which is where eventually we'll be transferring this live stream and a bunch of other things over to. So it's all going good, but it's also a whole bunch of, fun kind of extra work that's not making videos come out, which always makes me antsy when I look at the schedule.
Same. I was like, actually, I saw that Notion doc was like, is that all we've done? Oh shit. But
A little bit, yeah.
But
it'll be fine.
It'll work out.
Fine.
It'll work out.
So, all right. Thank you for hanging out, everybody. And
Yep.
I think that is us for this evening. So
It is.
have a good evening, play some great video games. It's actually a bloody brilliant time for video games.
Damn right. Oh, Elden Ring.
There is so much to enjoy.
Yeah, I really should have just put a segment Elden Ring, but that would have extended the stream by 3 hours, which is Elden Ring playing time. So, fuck you, I'm going home.
Yep,
please play it. It's great. Oh, it's so good. Fuck. Ah!
time for me to pay the price of having, I think, 7 shots of espresso in the 2 hours leading up to the stream.
Jesus.
I'm having a caffeine crash right now.
Yep.
Oh dear. Right. Take care, everybody, and we will see you same